Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are your award-winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. We have back your award-winning panel on the back of Tottenham Hotspur comprehensively beating Aston Villa by 4-0 at Villa Park. Took me a while to get that out, I tell you. Big result for Tottenham Hotspur in the context of the season and just what might that mean come the business end of what Spurs are in the process of being in. I'm delighted to be joined by three great returning guests. If you're listening to the first time, you can find us on iTunes. We're on Spotify. We're across all major audio platforms. We're, of course, on X. We are on Instagram. We are on Facebook too. I'm joined by Lee McQueen. I'm joined by Talia Coren. I'm joined by Chatty Patty on this Last Word on Spurs. Look, a lot of takes before the game. I, of course, named it the Highline Derby. We had Lee and Macca deciding between themselves whether we were facing prime Barcelona or arguably a team that were going to be really putting Spurs to the test. And Tal, bless her, there was no Matt Doherty involved. So quite honestly, Matty Cash got his comeuppance one way or another. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to get right into this one. Macca, I'm going to open up the show with you. Spurs do earn a crucial win in the fight for fourth. Ange won't let me hear you say that. He will not say it's for fourth. But it's 4 goals, it's 3 points, and a clean sheet. It doesn't get much better than that. I mean, look, the day itself, Sarr was outstanding in terms of the assist. Maddison back on the score sheet. Johnson, for me, arguably his best game in a Spurs shirt. Sonny in amongst the goals. Back-to-back goals for Timo Werner. It was quite simply the complete away performance from Tottenham. Spurs also inflicting the biggest home defeat on Aston Villa under Unai Emery, I believe, also in his career as well. And I think I've got to say, Lee, I said it to you off air, that I think, for me, that is overall Spurs' best definite second half performance under Ange. I might go as far as saying their best overall performance since the man arrived. And most certainly probably the most important win of his reign yet. How did you see it for you, Macca?
Spot on, mate. I'm absolutely delighted. Good evening. Yeah? Where are you, Unai Emery tonight? Yeah, I'm absolutely buzzing. I said it on X earlier. I thought it was the best performance since Ange came to the football club. Patient, clinical, a clean sheet, restricted prime Barcelona that you lot were telling me they were to 1 shot on target. 1 shot on target at their house, in their home, in their backyard. They only had 3 attempts all game, the whole game, only 3. That is incredible stuff. So I thought we were outstanding today. People on X are throwing XG at me, saying that I'm a nutter because I thought it was the best performance. And our expected XG was 0.4, whatever, in the first half, right? And we smashed them 4-0. I don't care about XG. I care about winning games with goals like that. So I thought we were brilliant. And I'm sure we'll get into it. I mean, wow, Pape Matar Sarr, take a bow, man. He is just incredible play. I thought the first half, like you talk about first half, second half, we were completely in control of that first half. And I actually put a tweet out before the game saying Villa will batter us in the first half and we'll batter them in the second half and we'll see what happens that comes out. But I think I was wrong about that in the first half because I don't think they battered us at all. Arguably, they had a few more chances than us. I don't think we had a shot on target. And that is my one thing about this team. I'm sure we'll get into it. One thing about this team, you have to shoot more. That is my only criticism of them. I've been in that south stand, like all of us go when we go, like Pat's in the south stand, Tal's in the south stand, when we're in the south stand, and all we're doing is screaming at the players, not abuse, we're just screaming, shoot. Remember them times when you used to go and see Stefan Foyne, and every time Foyne would get the ball, shoot. We're just doing that with every player now. And I felt I was doing that as well from the comforts of my sofa. Big up to Mike and Ben. They've gone to the Villa today. John Little White Rose is down at Villa today as well. So big up the team from that. And, phenomenal atmosphere. The away fans, again, just absolutely outstanding. And I just, it's exactly what we needed, Rick, Tal, Patrick, team, viewers and listeners. We needed this because it just felt, for me just personally, since the Man City Cup defeat, there's not been something quite right on the pitch. There's a lot off the pitch that ain't right yet again. So I don't want to go down that route at the moment. I don't want to bring the mood down. But, we got a win against Palace and we got a win against Brighton, but they weren't great. And we obviously lost against Wolves. But this was proper. From start to finish, in my opinion, we controlled that football match and we were absolutely brilliant. And if we play like that every single week, well, we're beating prime Barca, aren't we, every week? I mean, you know what I mean? It's just superb. So really, really pleasing. The Blue Book is out in full force tonight throughout the show as well. Some unbelievable stats. And a massive congratulations to our captain, our man, Heung-min Son, for now equaling the great Cliff Jones in 159 goals for the football club. Absolutely outstanding. We salute you, our captain. And I just thought we were brilliant, Rick. We
was indeed. I know many are asking for apologies from me and Pat. Me and Pat will be putting, I'm sure, our context on it. Look, I've got to say, I think what's interesting as well, before we bring Pat in, I'm going to go to Tal next, that Villa actually decided to switch things up today. And they actually went for back five, which maybe was a sign of respect for Tottenham, that they were concerned by how Spurs were going to approach the game. And look, we've had many different debates over the course of the last few weeks with Tottenham, that how hard they have found it to really break down teams that were sitting in. And Villa were doing much of that for the first half, which I think you saw in the second half. The sooner Villa really started to play or try and play expansive football, Spurs really got a rhythm. And from the first goal, didn't look back. I mean, Tal, to bring you in, what a performance. Much more like the Spurs from, I would say, the first 10 to 12 games of the season. I mean, we are the first opposing side to keep a clean sheet at Villa Park in the Premier League since Unai Emery was appointed there. And I think if we're looking at the two teams as a whole, I mean, Spurs have totally dominated Villa both home and away this season. And then many will still think how we lost at home to them was a mystery, given how Spurs played so well on the day. But look, that was a top performance. And so we're at the home of a Champions League rival for the fourth spot. Even highlights further what a fantastic comprehensive win it was. Tal, how do you see the game for you?
I mean, this team today just made me happy. Like watching that game, I think for the first time in ages, we were not sitting there like, oh my God, are we going to mess this up? Are we going to do this? I think there just wasn't a minute really where I felt like we weren't in control of the game. And that was such a reassuring, unfamiliar feeling for all of us. Even at the beginning, like we weren't doing that well. They only look remotely threatening because of our mistakes. They didn't create any chances off their own back at all. So I thought we were just fully in control of the game, and we loved that. And overall, I think it was such a complete away performance. And, you know, like you touched on, definitely one of the best since Ange has been there. Arguably, probably one of the most important for sure. But I think we just did such a great job. You know, what a team performance to have 4 different goal scorers away from home, you know, within a 45-minute period. Incredible. Also, clean sheet. Come on. I know last time I was on here a few weeks ago, we were slating it. We haven't had enough of those. And I think, you know, we saw how important keeping that clean sheet was to Vic. He literally got his head bashed on the line trying to defend it. So incredible to keep that. But look, of course, there's bits that we could have improved on in the first half, but we can't complain. Look, we've just won 4-0 at Villa Park. So let's take that. We coped with the pressure well. We outplayed them in their own backyard. And it was just superb. So if anyone's unhappy, then what's wrong with you? We're happy.
Yeah, look, I totally agree with that, Tal, I must say. And I think, again, the aspect, I think, what was so pleasing is the fact that, you know, Spurs were relentless in their attempts at goal. And I think, Maka, you summed up at the beginning, why are we not shooting more? Because, quite frankly, we can see when Ange ball is the way it is, like we played today, that we are one of the most dangerous sides. And I think, you know what says it all for Tottenham is having that back four that we've so ever craved to have back together really since the opening 10 games. The likes of Destiny, the likes of Porro, Mickey van der Ven will come on to shortly in terms of where we stand with him and that injury. And of course, Christian Romero alongside him. You know, ultimately, Spurs do look quite strong defensively. So we really need to use that attack a lot more often. And Patty, to bring you in, look, that was a brilliant win for Spurs. Superb second half in which I would say real clinical finishing from Tottenham. It does mean Spurs are just 2 points behind Villa with a game in hand, which ultimately does mean, of course, Champions League football is in Tottenham's hands. I have to remind you that game in hand is against Chelsea, but particularly given our recent context of games, Pat, where, you know, we see teams sit back, we dominate possession and tire them out and then try and exploit them on the second half. For me, that was 4 very much Ange ball kind of goals. Wing play, cut back, high press, and it has to be up there with not only one of the results of the season, but ultimately one of the best, I would say, performances when you give the nature of just how much was riding on that, Pat. So sum it up for you.
Yeah, that was the game with, actually, first and foremost, I want to say what's up to everyone on the panel and obviously everyone tuning in. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what time you're listening in. And yeah, it's great to be on there in good spirits. It's been, obviously, I'm seeing all the comments and a bit of tongue in cheek. People saying I need to apologize. Ricky needs to apologize. Listen, we're just realistic fans who understand what's going on, and we're showing Aston Villa the respect they deserve. Let's not be disingenuous and because we battered them and we deserve to win, we were better in every metric, but they are a very good team. And going into it, I was worried. I'm not going to lie to you. Away at Villa Park under a good manager, good team, they were literally doing all the things that I hadn't seen us do in a while. And yeah, we went into that game in complete control. And like you said, Ricky, from minute one, like Talia alluded to and I've alluded to on previous pods, it's been a while since I've watched the Spurs game and felt comfortable. Even if we were winning 2-0, even if there was only 5 minutes left in the game, I always was on edge, like we could concede at any moment. But today we looked solid from, the first man to the 11th man. Everyone was in line, everyone was singing under the same hymn sheet. Vicario looked solid, even on corners when they were trying to crowd us out, everyone knew what their role was and everyone was working together for the team. And yeah, like Talia alluded to as well, the only time they really got in is when Basuma gave away a cheap pass at one point, so did Romero. But other than that, they didn't really carve us open. They showed a lot of respect to us and went to a back five. So they were a bit out of sorts because they don't play with a back five. So that just goes to show they were fearful of what we could do and, what our attack could do. And it was just brilliant to see. I mean, with both wing backs and full backs playing, and obviously, basically the trusted 11, we were in total control. Pat Matasar back to his best. He was everywhere. I mean, and that cross for Sonny's goal was absolutely delicious. One of the best crosses I've seen all season coming from a midfielder like that. Insane. And yeah, I mean, going back to what I was saying previously, going into this game, there was a lot riding on it. We had never beat Unai Emery team. So Unai Emery had got the best out of us in the last 6 games he had played us. He had won 4, drawn 2. Again, going into the game, Villa had scored 56 goals. We had scored 52. They had conceded 35. We had conceded 38. They had won 4 of their last 5 games. And we had only won 1 of our last 6 away games. So again, like I was saying before, when I was concerned and worried, it wasn't just because I was like, oh, Villa are much better than us. They were at that moment in time. But, these are the games we live for. And business end of the season means everything means something. And the brilliant thing for us is that Villa and us have pretty much got to play the same level of teams. And we've all got to go to the same teams. So every game means something for both parties. And the way the title race is so tight and the battle for top 4 is so tight, it's now where you're going to see, who's really about it. And, crunch time, you saw Maddison step up today. Son stepped up. I thought everyone was brilliant. People have been getting on to Brennan Johnson. He stepped up. Timo Werner came off the bench and stepped up. Dragusin came in under a lot of pressure, away from home in the big game, to come in cold, knowing that a lot was riding on it. And he looked quality and just looked like he had slotted in. And yeah, this is when you see, the men from the boys. You separate the men from the boys and you see what the team's about. And a lot of people were doubting us and obviously kind of writing us off. But to win 4-0 away from home, it puts down a marker. And the next team to play us, which is Fulham, they're going to be worried now. And this is what we want. We want teams to show us that respect. And we want teams to know that we're more than capable at any moment to open them up. And like I said, it's the first time in a long time I've been really pleased with the performance. Even in the first half, I saw a few people moaning on Twitter, but I thought we were really good. Yeah, we didn't really have the attacking edge, but we dominated and controlled the game. And I kind of knew that the goals would come if we just continued to play the way we did. And we're the ones that forced Villa to make their mistakes. We're the ones that forced McGinn to lose his head. And we're the ones that forced them to basically not be able to take a clean shot on target and all of that stuff. So I thought it was a fantastic performance. Probably the best performance of the season, considering everything that was on the line. And yeah, really happy.
I think this is a lot, Pat. Like I said in the opening intro that Villa decided to change their formation, bearing in mind the fact they haven't done that all season. And I know obviously Villa came off the back of the draw in Holland during the week with Ajax. And I know many are alluding to the fact of just how much they took off them. And I think a lot of the predominant talk after the game is just how much Ange's team talk played a massive factor, Maka, because I think Ange's team talk message was essentially going into halftime, look, Villa are going to tire in the second half. I think we have to remember Villa, despite how well they've done in the Premier League, it's still a fairly young, inexperienced team that are really there ultimately for the first time in a long time in terms of being in a top 4 battle. So I think a lot of it was kind of come down to how Spurs really did approach that second half. And there was such a real, as you said, Mac, when you're opening there, pride and joy of the way Spurs played their football and played in the way they had played in those opening 10, 11 games with no fear. They knew defensively they were solid, and it was about taking those opportunities, and they did that really, really solidly. Now, I think the massive concern coming out of the game was Mickey van der Ven, who had to be substituted due to an injury. But Ange just come out and said after the game, as far as he's concerned, he doesn't believe it's anything too significant. He said he's disappointed with him because he was outstanding up until the point of end to come off. But it was great for Radu to come in his first significant game time in a big game. I thought we handled it really, really well. And I thought, to be honest and say that, Dragusin, I've seen there's been a few murmurs of concern, the fact that when he's come on, hasn't looked assured. But I've got to say, I haven't really felt that about Radu. I mean, he's not had the game time nearly there. He's had to come in, in fits and moments. And I think, judging the fact of coming into such a high-pressure game, and everybody knowing, Macca, just how important Mickey van der Ven is to that defence. I think it's great to see Radu come in and really put in a performance where we do now feel really competent with the options we've got now at centre-half. And it's a great thing to not be concerned about the fact that if a Romero or a Mickey van der Ven goes down, you're not really concerned about that option coming off the bench because you can trust them. And that's the biggest respect I can give to Dragusin in terms of his overall impact. I mean, Macca, how much do you play into the fact of Villa being away in Europe midweek, the fact of changing the formation? Was it just the fact, putting that all to one side, Spurs were that damn good today that ultimately playing like that, not many teams could stop them?
Yeah, 100%. And I think the drop-off that we saw between Van der Ven, who everybody loves Van der Ven, let's be fair, and I love him as well, but the drop-off between Van der Ven and Dragusin, who by the way, isn't even a left footer, he's a right footer by trade. I didn't think there was any drop-off. I literally didn't see any drop-off at all. You look at some of the statistics, they had one shot, I think, on target in the 84th minute when Tao rightly said about Vicario getting one in the head. I think that was the only one that they had. So it's not as if Dragusin's come on and they started like overrunning us and taking shots and this, that, and the other at all. I think it was in complete control of the football match from start. As Pat said, as we've all said, the comments are just streaming in. I have to say, absolutely big up everyone. We've got over nearly 3,000 people watching us live just on this one channel, which is absolutely craziness. We are absolutely loving you. Hit the like and subscribe. Rick hates me saying it, but do it, team. We love it. I just want to big up Destiny Udogie. I know you're going to go. I just thought he was absolutely outstanding. The pace, the power, the timing. I absolutely love the bloke. And he's 20 years old, 21 years old. Sarr, that ball in. People ridiculed me the other week when we were playing Emerson Royale, and I said, maybe we could put Sarr as a right back. Because let's be honest, our right back don't play right back, do they? Like, let's be absolutely fair. They play Pedro Porro today, brilliant, love him. But he's playing centre forward, crying out loud. So, and Sarr running down the right wing today, that could have easily been a right back. That ball that he put in was world class. I'm saying it, team. I'm getting carried away. That was a world class cross, absolutely pinpointed, brilliant. And again, you touched upon it as well. Johnson getting pelters. What is wrong with our fan base at some points? Getting pelters. This bloke's clocking up some serious stuff now. I mean, this kid is coming in, 45 minutes. He's clocking. He's got goal involvements coming out of his ears. He's scored enough. I thought he was excellent today down the left-hand side. Really, really good. I actually thought with a little bit more confidence, he could have put Matty Cash on his backside a few more times than he could have. Do you see what I mean? I think he had him on toast. So I just think that I don't want to give you carried away. I think it was the best performance I said, but it was calm, it was assured, it was clinical. You didn't feel at any one time we were all going mad. Like I've watched games with you guys and girls. I know what we're all like. We're Tottenham fans. You're pulling your hair out. You're saying things. None of that was kind of happening. This is Villa. This is Villa at their place.
A massive huge game in the context of the season. Huge game.
Mate, John McGinn come out. John McGinn made a comment about how big the game is. I have to paraphrase, I'm afraid, because otherwise it's taking too long. John McGinn come out the day before the game yesterday and sort of said, look, we know how big this game is. Villa haven't been in the Champions League. I think you said this last time around, Rick, since 1983. They haven't even been in the new format of the Champions League. It was the old European Cup at the time, which, again, is pretty crazy, isn't it? Villa, a massive club, massive club. He said how massive game it was. It was like their cup final. They're putting everything into it, and we've absolutely roasted them. Not only did we roast them, we stuck them back on the barbecue and went again. We went for seconds, Rick.
Okay. Listen, I agree. I mean, I tell you, on that point, Maddison after the game said, look, it feels as big as any other 3 points, but we knew there'd be a lot on the game itself because of the nature of the league table. I'm really happy. You see that from the celebrations. We worked really hard all week. We had a game plan and we came away with the 3 points with a convincing win. It is a happy changing room. I felt like we were in control. They were getting tired near the end of the first half. It's a common theme in our game. We score a lot of goals late on. The message was to keep on doing the same thing because they won't be able to keep up with us. We blew them away at the start of the second half, game by game. Sorry for the boring cliche. That's all you can do. You have to focus on winning the game. No position in the table is solidified by the result today. It's just about keeping on going. And just Ange after the game said, look, I think we made it tough for Villa. They worked harder to contain us. The last 10 minutes of the second half, you can already see them starting to tire a little bit. We just had to continue to do that, and we got our rewards in that second half. We knew it was a big game, obviously. Everyone was talking it up as a game where it could lead to something significant. I never saw it like that. There's a good chunk of season still to go. We just need to stay calm, play our football. And in relation to the supporters, get excited. Why not? If they don't get excited by a performance like that and a result like that in what's a significant game, you've got to go and enjoy that. We know every game is a challenge in the Premier League, especially a team like us who are trying to gain an identity. The next step is for us to maintain a consistency of quality performances. Considering the context of the game, the opponent and the venue, I thought we controlled it as we've been in a game. Ange was asked also in relation to if he was pleased with the way the players handled that setback of Mickey van der Ven's injury with the 2 quick goals. And he said, look, I know that was key. The whole game I was really pleased with the way we handled the occasion. Obviously, we knew it's a significant game coming here. Tough venue, good opponent. I just thought the atmosphere here, they get behind the team. I thought with all that and the context to it, the first half we did ever so well, but we just made them work harder more than anything else. They had to try and contain us, and they had the threats they had, but we snuffed them out. I had a sense towards the back end of the first half that we're beginning to really tire a little bit. That was the message at half time, to persevere, stay calm, play our football, maintain the intensity, which was going to be important. And we did that. We got off to a flyer. The quality of football was excellent to see out the game. And at the beginning of the year, we played some great games of football. We handled ourselves well. But in the context of the game, the venue and the opponent, I think, as I mentioned, we controlled the game as we'd been in all the games most of the start of the season. It's positive for us. There's a lot of growth in the team. And it's one of the areas that we can control games even further, even against quality opponents. I mean, Pat, I'll come to you and ask you, we're getting many comments coming through that with relation to Celtic, there was just that game in the first season where it all just clicked. Patty, is this that game?
Well, I hope so. Only time will tell, isn't it? It's like, when Maddison was said, he doesn't want to be cliche, and even Lee said it earlier, it was fantastic. I think we were amazing today, but we do just want to take one game at a time and not get too carried away, because we could easily, if we rest on our laurels and get too big for our boots, then we could essentially go to Fulham and slip up. The Premier League is relentless. Every team will be looking to, take a scalp here or there. Tottenham are a big team. Teams will up their level when they come to players, especially with the way we're playing and the players we've got on show. So let's not get too giddy, but also, like Ange is saying, enjoy it. Enjoy these moments. If you can't enjoy beating one of your rivals for, a potential Champions League place 4-0 and absolutely pamming them. We slapped them from minute 1 to the 90th minute. It was brilliant, man. And I think everyone was so good today. And Dragusin just looked like a monster when he came in. Obviously, he's not going to be as quick as Van der Ven, but he looked just as good. He's solid. He won every aerial duel. The guy just looks like a specimen. And he can also play as well. He was playing out from the back, comfortable on the ball. He didn't give... sometimes when you see, with all due respect to Emerson Royale or one of the other centre-backs that come in, they look a bit shaky and they leave you a bit edgy and nervous when they get the ball and play out. He didn't give me that. He just looked calm and composed and like he'd been there all season. And I just thought everyone was brilliant today, man. Brennan Johnson, he's a kid, first season here, only second season in the Premier League. Every time he's coming in now, he's making big moments. And he had Matty Cash on toast. He was skinning him every time he got the ball. And, a lot of people cry, Brennan Johnson needs to go past his man, beat his man, stop passing backwards. Today, I thought he was really relentless and he took him on and took him on and took him on again and again. Timo Werner coming in, that was a clinical finish, the way he placed that into the bottom corner. I just thought everyone looked good. Kulusevski did frustrate me at times. I just thought that he could have taken an earlier shot. And obviously he made the wrong choice when he could have slipped Son in and took a wild shot. And obviously you saw Sonny go crazy at him and just say, like, what's going on? But all in all, he had a decent game as well. I thought everyone was good today, man. And there was a lot riding on that game. You know, when you see John McGinn coming out and making statements like that, you're like, wow, okay. And these guys, you know, Villa Park is, I wouldn't say a fortress, but it's a tough ground to go to. And we put 4 past them, and we was in complete cruise control throughout most of that game. The fans were fantastic as well. You know, we could hear them all game, which was brilliant. It wasn't a nice day in terms of the weather and obviously going all the way down to Birmingham and all of that. But yeah, I just thought everyone was great. And Ange outclassed Unai Emery. You know, I've been on here and I've been on many podcasts giving Unai Emery his praise and saying how good of a manager he is. But today, it was chalk and cheese. Ange outwitted him from the beginning to the end, made the right tweaks when he needed to, made a few subs when he needed to. One frustration with me and Ange Postecoglou has been sometimes he brings on 2 or 3 players at the same time and we kind of lose control of the game. But today he did it in the right way and the subs, you know, were phased in. And I thought Højbjerg looked really good when he came on. He was beating a man and driving forward, and you know, he looked good. Like, as far, you know, Højbjerg looked good on the ball. So all in all, a very pleasing performance. And I just want us to take that same ruthlessness down to Craven Cottage and put 3 or 4 past them, because we've been winning games 2-1, you know, for a lot of the times recently. But today, a 4-goal margin, and we absolutely, obviously now, that was a genuine 6-pointer. You know, we took 3 points off the opponent while also gaining 3 points on them. And the goal difference swing is brilliant as well. That's now in our favour. So we did ourselves really well today, man.
I agree. Just on this towel, you know, it's interesting. Jordan Hussein says, what do we think about the way the teams were set up? You know, we had Villa, of course, set up as a back 5. And I think, as I've mentioned it a couple of times in the show already, I think Villa tried to show their respect to Tottenham because they were concerned about how Spurs were going to approach the game. And is that something we need to consider, Tal? You know, we suggest on here sometimes that Spurs have found it really, really hard breaking teams down. They need to move the ball quicker. But is that a fact now that teams are showing Spurs the utmost of respect by putting 5 or, again, 6, 7, 8, 9 players behind the ball and saying, break us down? Is that the fact we're going to have to get used to that, Tal, and work the way like we did today, that it can be done? It can be done in style, because I think more and more teams are going to do that because they know that's a way of stopping Tottenham. Is that fair, me saying that, Tal?
I mean, I think so. Look, every team plays differently, and depending on who their coaches will depend on if they want to change those tactics and, you know, really tailor them to the way that we play, or just trust in the way that they play. And I think we will see a mixture of that. But I think we have to take the compliment, right? If someone really admires and acknowledges your strengths, the whole purpose of a game is to win. And if they think they've got a better chance by knowing that we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and they can help prevent that, then why wouldn't they do that? So, yeah, look, you've got to take it as flattery. And it really means that, you know, we're good and we play that way and we're effective. So if they want to change the way we play, then it is something we'll have to get used to. But, you know, to be the best, you've got to beat the best. And we know that and see that. And all of these top sides and these teams that have been consistent and building their projects over the last number of years, they've all done that. They've been agile, you know, and these good teams find their ways to win no matter how the opposition plays. And I think that, you know, we definitely have the skill set to do that. We've got a really strong squad and it is growing. You know, before part, I think, and going back to, you know, when Mickey went down, we were all like, shit, right? Like, he is our saving grace a lot of the time. And like you said as well, I mean, Dragusin, we've only seen him in very small pockets, but we wasn't like blown away by it. But I think after today, seeing him having that longer stint, there is a lot more faith there, and he feels like a clever player and is taken on his tactics really well. And I think we have to take solace in that. And it's like, all right, well, if teams are going to be agile, and we need to be agile, we can do that. We've got players that can come in, can change the game, can do these things, and we can counter whatever they kind of bring us. So I think that is a positive that we have to take for sure. So no, I think, look, whatever they want to bring, we've got to find a way to beat them. That's always been our biggest challenge. So we can do it, especially with Ange. And I think one word based on the back of what all you guys have said, like, I think there's one word for me that we haven't brought up that I think it was today, and that is a mature performance. Like, I think it was a really mature performance from us, and I don't think we've necessarily seen that consistently in the past. And, you know, having a big pressure game and stuff like that, we've seen it before. We don't take that very well, and all it takes is, you know, in that first half, you could see it was getting a bit rowdy. It was very fast paced at that beginning, and it was a bit like, oh, you're not sure. And then there was that dodgy yellow, and you think, oh, why is he doing that? And it could have gone another way. And an old Tottenham and different players 100% could have twisted that and taken it in a different direction. I think today we really showed that maturity. We stuck and were true to the way that we wanted to play, and we knew what would happen in that second half, and it paid off, and we were phenomenal. It was a really fluid, mature performance. I think the only thing for me, if there's anything, and it's not a negative, but it's still, we could only play one good half of football. I know we controlled it, but we're still not scoring throughout the 90-minute strong period. We're seemingly just doing it in half. So that's the only thing.
They come in batches, don't they, Tal? That like the goals, they come in like if you go back even to Everton, bang bang. If you go into Brentford, it was what, 7 minutes. I think Crystal Palace was an 11-minute scenario. Even today, it was like 2 quick goals and then another 2 quick goals.
Yeah, even historically though, like even under Poch and whoever else, or all of our managers, remember we always said we can only play one good half. We always concede first and then we come back fighting. It's the same, it's still not quite the same, but it's still a little bit of that when we're just like, why can't we play like this the whole time? And it never happens.
No,
I know maybe carry that momentum, but
I still think it's got a lot to do with the opposition.
Yeah.
I think, when I will go back to this point, again, I've been frustrated in the last few weeks where we haven't started fast. And I think, well, do you know what? I think I maybe need to flip my mind and think, well, do you know what? Is that down to the way teams are set up against us? Because when you are having to try and break down 10, 11 men at times, and I think I've seen this now in the course of the Premier League. We watched the other week, the Man City, Man United game where for an hour, I think United had the lead, and that was not a great game of football. And I think what we're realising now is that, look, managers are getting better in the Premier League. The players are improving on every side. And what we are seeing now, I think, in my opinion, is that ultimately games are getting harder and harder to win because more and more teams are going away. Scouts are doing their research. They're trying to work out how to play against teams. And I think that's a massive, massive part of why we've not seen, in terms of Tottenham, the full 90-minute performance, which arguably I think we've seen periods of 60 minutes. I think when I look back, I think our last dominant performance, like to some degree, was the win at home to Newcastle. I think before that, you'd have to go back to that kind of opening 9 or 10 games. I suppose are really dominant over periods. But I think what we're finding here, a lot of messages that are coming in from a lot of Celtic fans that love Ange and have watched his journey, and a lot of Aussie fans, is that, look, this is normally what Ange figures out in that first season where you are going to get results like this. And there's normally that one result that really sets a massive pathway. We're going to hope it's this.
This is it, Rick. Just on that. I'm not sure that's this result. I think there's another one. I honestly do. I don't think this is. I genuinely, no. Honestly, I'm just being honest, right? I actually think there's an absolute 7-8-0 around the corner. Like a Bayern Munich doing what they did to Mainz. Honestly, I'm not saying that we're going to do Man City that, but Luton are coming up. I'm not. Don't want to predict who's going to. I just feel like there's another absolute whipping because everything that we're saying, the first half, second half thing, the shots, I've just done some statistics. So I just throw them at you just quickly, right? This is about shots on target. You good with that, Rick?
Absolutely.
Blue Book corner, man. People are calling for the Blue Book corner, right?
Here we go.
I've just gone back. Here we go. Look, I've just gone back to the Conte last 13 games when we got top 4. I think it's a really good comparison, viewers and listeners, because we're vying for the top 4 places. We had 13 games left to play, and we scored 29 goals in 13 games during that period. So it wasn't last season; it was the season before. And we had 5.3 shots on target every game. And I'll just throw some out. I won't give them away. There's 13 games. 7 on target versus Everton, 3 on target versus United, 7 on target versus Brighton, 4 on target versus West Ham, 6 on target versus Newcastle. So you get the drift. There's a couple of others in there. We had 2 absolute howlers, Brighton and Brentford. We didn't even get a shot on target the whole game. That's classic Conte. But then we went to Norwich and got 13 shots on target. Burnley, 8 shots on target. See where I'm coming from, team? So, we scored 29 goals from 69 shots on target, which was excellent. In that season, we had 198 shots on target through the whole season, 38 games. This year, we've had 159 shots on target, which is shots per game, 6. So on average, we're shooting on target, having 6 on target. So it's higher than the Conte. And we were blowing teams away. Some of them results I've just talked about, and we smashed Norwich 5-0. We smashed Everton 5-0. We smashed Newcastle 5-1. We battered Villa 4-0. Oh, we've just done that again. Really, here we go. Here comes the train. So I think the comparison is quite interesting of how much football has shifted. Do you see what I mean? And the perception.
Yeah.
And I said at the beginning of the show, and I totally agree, we need to have more shots. because I genuinely think if we have more shots, there's a 7-8 niller coming around the corner. I genuinely do. Can we have more shots? Is it because they're putting 8 men, 9 men, 10 men behind the ball? I don't know. But there was a couple of instances today where you're thinking, Sonny, you can go left or right here, mate. Up to you. And he fluffed his lines, or he made the wrong pass. Pat rightly said about Kulusevski. And then there was opportunity
right?
for him
over the last few weeks. And I think that's why we feel frustrated, is because it gets to that point in the box and you're like, just shoot, because there is a chance they're not.
Exactly.
And that is
to be fair, Decky made them make mistakes. I mean, he had the ball to Sarr for Sarr to score, to put that in. He had the ball to Son for Son to assist, and then he actually assisted to Son as well. So, but there was still them frustration moments like that Pat said earlier, where you're thinking, just shoot, mate. Like against Norwich, drop a shoulder, get it on your left, ping it top bins. Where's that gone? Even with Sonny, like he could go left or right. It was down the centre. You're just pinging this, mate, top bins. You've done it against Leicester, the Leicester hat-trick. So it's just, that's why I'm thinking to myself, I'm not having a go at the team, by the way. What I'm saying is, we definitely can improve. And if these are the bumps in the road that everyone spoke about when Ange first come, I am loving the bumps in the road. Do you see where I'm coming from? Because again, go back to statistics, we've lost 1 Premier League game in our last 12.
Yeah. And I think again going into Villa. Yeah, go for it, Sal. Go for it.
I was going to say really quickly, I think it's because we can see that vision, and we see the little specks of it, or when we are just shooting and it's for fun and they're going in, or we're seeing when we're putting the pressure on, like today, we're outplaying them and it is hard. And if we keep that up, it's like we can see the team that we are going to become, and that is super exciting. But then when we don't play like that, it's like, oh, come on, we want to see it more. But actually, when you bring in the stats and you put context and everything, and it's our first season, we're playing incredibly considering all the injuries, everything else. It is just that small tunnel vision thing, isn't it? Of like, you see how you can do something and you want that more. We're greedy. We want more.
Well, of course.
Yeah,
I mean,
sometimes sorry, just on that and moving across to Rick and Pat. Just on that as well. Sometimes you see it when you're watching it live in a stadium as well. You can do player cam, can't you? You can do whatever you want. You can put your eyeballs wherever. It's very different on TV and especially on like highlights and whatnot. So the reality is, you start watching players and what they're doing, their movement. Today, Romero had 4 opportunities to do a old school Alderweireld ping. Yeah. Right, for 4 opportunities, 2 for Maddison, 2 for Son. They both was on their bike. They both bent their run brilliantly, and he didn't do it, or he didn't find them. Maybe didn't have the confidence.
I know.
I can't agree with.
Sorry, Rick. Sorry, and that's what I'm thinking. It's like, what else can come from this team? That's why it's exciting, no?
Absolutely. I mean, and on this point, Pat, I got to say, I think, again, going into today, we have to remind ourselves, I think Spurs have got on par the best away record in the Premier League. So I think coming into the game, I know that's maybe also why Villa were a little bit hesitant in their setup, Pat. You know, that's a massive armoury to have now going into, as we say, these final 11, 12 games. That teams know how good Spurs are away from home. And with that solid back line, if we can improve, as we keep on saying, our shots ratio in terms of shots on target, Pat, we could really, really have a good end to the season, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you look at our next fixtures, you got Fulham away, Luton at home, West Ham away, Forest at home. Those are the next 4. Dare I say it, I mean, we hate saying that, but on paper, those are all definitely winnable fixtures. And the way we're playing now, and we know there's a lot on, on the line and at stake. Hopefully we can smash these teams, really increase that goal difference, get some confidence. You know, clean sheets bring confidence. I was talking to someone on Twitter and they said they're not too concerned about a clean sheet, because I said, you know, it's our first clean sheet since December the 15th. So that's almost 3 months now. Nottingham Forest away. I remember it clearly. It was on Friday the 15th because I went to the darts at Ali Pali, and that's the last time we kept a clean sheet. We beat Forest 2-0. And he was saying he's not too concerned because we score a lot of goals. But I'm like, listen, if we score the same goals that we do and keep a clean sheet, we automatically win those games. And for me, the best teams are built on solid, you know, defensively solid teams. And we've got everything going for us going forward. But defensively, we've been a bit of a shambles. And even when we're winning games and quite comfortable, we'll concede a silly goal or 2. So it was really nice to see today that we kept a clean sheet. And I know they had 10 men, but even when, you know, it was 11 versus 11, we had 68% possession. They didn't really have a shot on target. We were still in control, in my opinion. And John McGinn lost his head. And I think that's just because we were in such control. And then obviously once they went down to 10, but thankfully as well, because, you know, obviously when a team goes down to 10, they can just camp, 10 behind the ball, be ultra defensive, but we were still pinging the ball around. And like Talia said as well, she made a really good point. We were so mature today. And I get what you're saying, Lee, about Romero pinging the balls and not making, but I think from the flip side of that, we didn't want to give the ball away unnecessarily. So we just kept the ball. We were really controlled and measured. You even saw sometimes we would go forward. If the run wasn't on or the pass wasn't on, we would take the ball back and just recycle and go again. And I thought today was the first time in a long time I saw all the midfielders look really comfortable. Maddison looked good. Basuma looked good. Sarr looked amazing. Everyone was just, fantastic in and out of possession. And I do think, a lot of rival fans and people watching would have been like, wow, okay, Tottenham are back again. They're here to play. Because for the first 10 or 12 games, everyone was giving us our plaudits and saying how good we looked. And then for a while, they said, oh, you lot are shaky. You're kind of scraping wins. You're quite lucky. But today, they would have been like, okay, these guys are, the real deal again. Yeah, they're serious. 4 goals away from home against Villa, who are a decent team. We kept Ollie Watkins quiet. It was quite funny because if you look for watching it, I know. Yeah, and
unbelievable.
None of it.
I thought it was quite fun. I'm not sure if it was disrespectful. Maybe I'm, with my Spurs hat, I'm reading a bit too much into it. But before the game, all they did is talk about Villa. They spoke about Ollie Watkins. They spoke about they didn't really talk about Spurs and what we could offer. So it's quite ironic that we literally shut down and nullified every single one of their threats, and it was literally Tottenham all the way through the game. And also I noticed as well, Douglas Luiz was all over James Maddison, trying to get under the skin, dirty little kicks and pinching him and doing all this stuff. And
that was the tactic, Pat, wasn't it? It was to try and roll Tottenham into...
Exactly, that's it. And you're going to notice teams will do that a lot more now. They're going to try and really get under the skin of Romero's and your Maddisons to get us off our game. But it didn't work.
Maturity. That's what I mean.
Yes.
They're not letting that get to them anymore. And they're doing this old, what Maddison was a bit like, old Maddison, or like they would have been like, come on, let's go. Whereas now it's like, what? Like they're not. It's a very different approach, and it is just more mature because I think they've realised if I do that, I'm one being selfish and 2 letting the team down. We've seen it with Biss and whoever else has been sent off for doing stupid things. Now I think there's such that level of like, no, this is a together thing, not a me thing. So if he wants to wind me up, me and all my boys aren't going to let that happen. And I think that is really fun to watch because it's like, nah.
Yeah.
I totally agree on that. It's funny to think. Can I just say as well?
Sorry, mate. Go on. No, I was going to say, just Patrick was saying about kind of like an assured and, calm, and Tal was saying about, mature performance away from home. We've got an unbelievable away record in the Premier League. We've only lost 2 games. I mean, I had to triple check the stat because I was like, that has got to be wrong. But we've only lost 2 games away from home. And that was Brighton, to be fair. We got battered. I don't know what was happening in that game. And then even then we could have got a point. I mean, just mental. And then we lost to Wolves in the whole ridiculous 1-0 up after 3 minutes. And then, the whole Højbjerg, Dyer, Royale scenario, whatever. And we ended up losing that game. They're the only 2 games we've lost. And we've been to the Etihad. We've been to the Gooners. We've been to Villa Park now. Do you know what I mean? Like we've got a good record away from home, which is really, really impressive, isn't it?
It is massive. And I think, again, when you look at what we've got to come, I know some comments there saying they're glad Pat stopped at saying the next 4 fixtures. Don't say the next 4 after that, because that's when we're in April. We know what's coming.
But them next 4, and I say it all the time, and thanks for bigging up the other day, Rick, but them 4 fixtures that come after, that is what we live for. These are the games.
Right.
Look at the There's 4,500 people watching live on this channel right now, which is absolutely insane. 4,500 got to be a record, Rick. And everybody's buoyant because we've just smashed Villa on their own backyard. Imagine we go to Anfield and we do that. Imagine we turn Newcastle over in their own backyard and then we come back and we batter City and Arsenal. I'm not saying we're going to do that, but imagine if we did. This is why we love football, isn't it?
These are the tests. These are the games where you're gonna, like I said earlier, you're gonna figure out what you're about and where we stand. And Villa was a tough test. They were above us in the league, and a lot of people thought that we would lose convincingly. And obviously, we did the dirty on them. And we go to City. We play Arsenal. We play Liverpool. Let's see what we're about. I think we can definitely get some results out of those games. And obviously that will leave us in good stead going into the remaining 3 fixtures, which on paper look a bit more favourable.
Confidence and consistency is key. And if
Absolutely.
we are confident and consistent, then we will think that we can beat anyone, and we need that. So,
Amen. What we are going to do, we are going to finally go for our first break of the show for listeners' audio. I've been trying to say it for the last 15 minutes.
You lot, by the way, we got some gooners in the chat. One of my friends, Jason, he's in the chat. He's a gooner, and he said you're not beating Arsenal. So even the Arsenal fans are
Jason.
Jason.
Looks like Jason's worried, Pat. What do you think?
Can I just say very quickly, guys? I must just say very, very quickly. Look, I just want to say a massive happy Mother's Day to all the wonderful mums out there, all the wonderful women in our life. I think, again, we all know who they are and how much we need them, most certainly. Definitely on these shows, I've got to say, again, thank you so much for all your support. I can just say it's funny, I think Mother's Day weekend last season was Southampton away, that crazy Conte rant, and just how far things have changed in the space of 12 months, and just how much we are looking forward to the remainder of the season, where I think, those last 3-4 months of last season, I don't need to tell you just how morbidly depressing we was with what was going to come. But look, again, Ange has done that most certainly. So you are going to hear from Ange Postecoglou during his first break of the show for our listeners and audio. As Macca says there, we've got over nearly 4,500, or I think there is over 4,500 of you watching us live. So again, thank you so much for all your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. A reminder, if you need one, that we are delighted to be sponsored by NordVPN. It is getting to that time of the year, folks. Look, if you're looking for cheap holidays, in terms of flights, in terms of getting away, you can do that, of course, by using Nord to your advantage. You can change location settings. For those that love their sport, there's lots of sports still, of course, during now to the end of the season, the business stage. Changing those location settings can help you get the very, very best sporting coverage. And you can do that by going to our link of nordvpn.com/LWS. That gives you an extra 4 months for free on a 2-year plan. There is no risk with Nord's 30-back money guarantee. And I just say, look how much Macca's internet has improved since he's taken up NordVPN. You can see that glowing, beaming smile there across the canvas. Right, look.
Chisel face, chisel face. That's what you need.
Oh, there you go. Listen.
Back, mate, look.
We're going to go to the team in for this one. Mako, I'm going to stick with you. I can. Ange made 3 changes as Spurs took on Villa in the Premier League. Postecoglou had back Pedro Porro after a hamstring injury, and the Spanish right-back, who had 8 assists so far this season, slotted back into the team. Richie remained out with that knee injury, but Pat Matasar had a better week following his back injury, and the young Senegalese star starred in the midfield with Rodrigo Bentancur dropping down to the bench. Brennan Johnson, who before the game, of course, was making that big impact with 2 assists from the bench against Crystal Palace, started with Dejan Kulusevski and skipper Heung-min Son up front. Timo Werner dropped to the bench despite his goal-scoring to play against Palace. So that team read Vicario, Porro Romero, Van der Udogie, Sarr Basuma, Maddison, Kulusevski, Son Johnson, with a bench of Austin, Emerson, Davis, Dragoshin, Højbjerg, Bentancur, Lo Celso, Werner, Scarlett. Our team lineup's always broken down by the wonderful Ali Gold. Macca, team came out. Happy with it?
Yeah, I was happy with it, actually. Ant posted it in the group, and I thought it was his prediction team. And I was like, oh, that's a bit. And then because I didn't realise what the time was, I thought that's a bit weird. Johnson, Ant's predicting Johnson to start over Werner. And then I realised it was actually the team that Ange picked. I think that's probably the only one that you would go that you do. There's always a Sarr versus Bentancur or Basuma versus Bentancur debate. You know, when you're having your pint or whatever it is, you're having a cup of tea or whatever you might be doing across with your mates. But I just felt that the team that you picked was obviously brilliant. And I thought Werner had his best game in a Spurs shirt against Palace, if I'm honest. I thought it was excellent. So I thought that's probably the only one. The whole Bentancur thing with Matty Cash, and he's still not quite right. Although, to be honest, again, I thought Bentancur come on today. I thought it was excellent. Seeing some of them touches, some of them quick turns and leaving people for dead, which he hasn't been doing when he's been starting games recently. So really pleased with the team. A lot of pace on there as well. I thought Johnson was outstanding. I really did. I thought Johnson was brilliant today. Exactly what you want him to be in the team for. Taking on his man, as Pat said earlier, you know, smashing Matty Cash, roasting him every opportunity. I was really pleased. And I think a few people said in the comments, so for the listeners, when you're listening to this back, you know, a few people have been bigging up Basuma as well. I think he made maybe one silly back pass, or he got caught in possession once in the first half, I think, for maybe twice. Other than that, I thought he was very assured and again back to his best. And everything we've been saying tonight is being based on them first 10 games, inverted commas.
Yep.
And I think
Yep.
we were back, inverted commas, mate, 100%. We're back to the 10 games.
Yeah, and again, as I mentioned, I've said it a few times in this show, you know, Villa's respect for Tottenham was shown by the fact Villa operating that back five. In terms of for them, it was Cash ahead of Konza on the right. And as a consequence of Ramsey's injury not in the squad, Duran returned to the bench with Tillsman as the left-sided number 10. And if we look at that first half, I mean, look, to be honest with you, wasn't a huge amount of chances. I think, again, with Tottenham, you know, we've seen the first halves where they have passed us by. I mean, Lee kind of gave us a bit of a summary there for Basuma. I mean, early on, there's that brilliant tackle by Mickey van der Ven to stop Watkins as he ran through and go after the Villa striker, beat Romero to the ball. We saw that next moment where that horrendous pass from Basuma across the edge of the box allowed Watkins to come inside, but luckily Porro was back to block Tillsman's shot. Following that, we saw Matty Cash hack down Brennan Johnson after the Spurs man went past him quite easily. Then reflecting on that, we saw Saar was in the book for bringing down Tillsman. But, you know, there was 2 or 3 times where I think, again, you guys have alluded to this already, that Maddison and Son looked to run in behind the Villa back line when Romero had the ball at the back. And there was times where Maddison actually throwed his hands up in the air out of frustration at one point because Udogie ignored his run and he was unmarked and in space. And I think, again, when you look at the first half as a whole, I mean, Tal, coming to you, was a strange half. You know, Spurs had a lot of the ball again, but had not taken nearly enough of that advantage. And, you know, again, going into half-time, for me, Van der Ven was ultimately the standout performer. And as you mentioned, Tal, in your intro, Villa's chances really came ultimately from Tottenham's mistakes. So there was that feeling, Tal, that had Spurs been able to convert the chances they had in the first half, then I think Spurs would go on to the second half to win comfortably, which turned out to be the case. But what was your thoughts going into half-time, Tal? Was you fairly confident Spurs would come out in the second half in the fashion they did?
I was, you know, I really was. I think as much as there was frustrating moments in that half, and I know we've touched on it, so I don't need to fully go into it. And I definitely think there was frustration there, like from the likes of Madders, etc., where they were just a bit like, come on, I've got space, give me the ball, I want it, and I can do something with it. That was there, but we were in control. The whole time, there really wasn't that at any point where I was sat there and was like, oh God, like this is not comfortable. Like, I just think we looked and felt comfortable throughout and we were putting on the pressure. And like you just repeated as well, you know, from the beginning, we were, you know, basically the only reason that Villa had any chances at all. We were the ones that, you know, lost the ball or did this and put it on a platter for them. And even then they didn't look like they were going to do anything with it. And look, as we've said again, historically, we play well in the second half. That's our time. And I just think we knew that we were going to play like that, knew that they played in Europe as well. And there's no reason why we wouldn't have come out like that. And I think when you looked at our bench as well, you then felt even more confident that we had Timo, etc., to come on if we needed them to bring in those legs against a tired Villa team. And I know, again, we've discussed everything, really, haven't we? We've got to this point and discuss everything like again. But Ange made really good subs. And I think we have seen in previous games where we have questioned it a little bit, where it just hasn't made that much sense. But today they were bang on and the subs were good and they worked and they were right. And I just think the whole time, no matter what point in the game, if you'd have said, do you feel confident? Weirdly, yes. Like from kickoff though, right? Like before kickoff, if you would have said we're going to win 4-0, I'd have been like, nah. It was very unexpected for me that we kept a clean sheet for sure, but 2, that we were going to play that well and really limit them in the way that we did. But overall, I think from when that whistle went, we showed up, we turned up and we came to win. And I really felt like we were going to. So cannot complain. We were just throughout.
We were. I mean, Patty, look, we start that second half. Van der Ven holding his hamstring again after making a change during a move that was later flagged offside. I know that's been a real big debate this season, that the amount of injuries that have happened
100%.
due to the flag going up late. You know, again, Spurs have actually been on that receiving end already once or twice this season. And you just wonder again, had the flag gone up earlier before the actual move escalates, then Spurs wouldn't be in the situation which they are yet again, where there's that concern now hanging over Mickey van der Ven, who walked off the pitch, which was a good sign. Ange, again, after the game said, from his perspective, doesn't think it's too significant. I don't want to put a downer on this. You know, we've had that a few times though, when we've heard a positive aspect and then a couple of days later, there's a concern. But look, let's hope it's something too serious. But Radu Dragusin came on, but I think it was such a shame, Pat, for Mickey van der Ven, who I've got to say, I think up until that point, Pat, of his injury, he would have been Spurs' best player, Pat. Am I fair in saying that, Mickey van der Ven?
Yeah, he was controlling the game. He was assured. I mean, even when Ollie Watkins was trying to get in a race with him, he was there covering. And it was strange because at halftime, they even spoke about Dragusin, going through his paces and warming up. So there was something not quite right with Mickey. And obviously, after he got into that foot race and they flagged offside really late, he needed to go off. Fingers crossed, it was precautionary and we didn't want to aggravate anything. And yeah, it's annoying because this offside stuff where you can clearly see the guys offside, just flag it, because a lot of injuries do happen when people have to put their body on the line and make last-ditch tackles, because obviously if the flag doesn't go up, then essentially you think the guy's offside, you don't react and they score a goal and you just look silly. So you have to react to it even though you know that they're offside. It's stupid. They need to work that one out. It's a really frustrating tweak that they could easily resolve. But like we kept saying, Dragusin came in and just looked phenomenal. And yeah, I'm pleased. Obviously, you don't want to lose your best or one of your best defenders, but the fact that you've got that quality in the reserves and he can come in, and we were screaming for that. Fingers crossed that there's nothing else that happens and no one else goes down, because you don't want to be losing players. The bench looked strong today. Is Oliver Skip injured? Because Oliver Skip didn't make the
No, I just think at the moment, Pat, you just can't get in the actual squad itself, which tells you the depth we've got now, Pat. We've actually got genuine depth there.
Gill as well. Brian Gill didn't make the final cut as well, so it's good news. That these are players that they're not world beaters and they haven't set the season alight, but they're still players that can play a part. And the fact they can't even make the matchday squad shows that the depth is good. And Lee and Talia said it. The guys that come on, I thought that, like I said earlier, Højbjerg looked really good when he came on, and Bentancur looked his silky old self, dropping shoulders, beating a man, just gliding and
Flory Matty Cash.
Yeah, that's it. Oozing through, just oozing sauce and just looking silky and just like himself. And it takes time after a big injury and then getting injured again. And Ange, I think, is managing him right now, not playing him and overplaying him. And the same with Sarr, because they're saying that Sarr's carrying a bit of a back issue. So again, it's about rotating these guys and not overplaying them. And I just feel now, if we probably get one more creative midfielder next year, again, because Maddison, I feel, was kind of overplayed off the back of his injury. And now you're kind of seeing Maddison back to his best, but it took a lot longer because I think we overplayed him when he came back. So we need one or two more to really have a quality squad. But you can see that
back to their straight after an injury. I think I'm not saying you do, but I think us mere mortal fans, we forget. He was out for nearly 4 months, same as Mickey Van der Vet. That's a long time to be out. I mean, you got the likes of Kevin De Bruyne. I mean, he comes back in, then he scores, makes 2 assists, whatever. But does take some players some time. I do think today we saw Maddison from the first 10 games. Do you see what I mean? Like them outside of the ball. I think he's got that in his locker now. I think he's been practicing that a lot. He done at least 3 or 4, didn't it? The outside of the boot passes he's trying. Mate, when one end comes on, he's going to be smoking, mate. It's going to be smoking.
By the way, what were your guys' thoughts on Son? Because I thought, even though obviously he got 2 assists and he scored, I thought he had a good game, but he was quite frustrating in the first half. Like you said, when Maddison put him in, and like Son usually runs onto that and finishes, 100%. And he just looked a bit out of sorts today, man.
Wasn't on the wavelength, Pat, I thought, first half. I mean, the great thing I love about Son is, I mean, again, we'll come on to a bit later on, but Son is one of those players that he can be having an awful game, but then he scores. And I think that in itself is an art, isn't it? I mean, again, Son is one of those players where you don't need him to actually give you a 9 out of 10 to score. He can just score and then not have a great game. I mean, again, similar to Kane at times, where when Kane was here, there'd be games where Kane was quite really non-effective, but he'd score, and everyone would actually forget about the performance because he scored. I mean, again, it's because of the nature we're doing a podcast that Pat brings it up there, because, again, many will look at the fact that they haven't watched the game and thought, oh, Son scored, he must be playing really well. But, again, that's the nature, I think, of a good player, that at the top of their game, they get goals and they're not the most effective self. I mean, Pat, just on this point very quickly, you mentioned a point, Pat, there about the fact Spurs need more creativity. And what I loved actually is before the game in Ange's pre-match presser, Ange actually said the point that from his perspective, the squad is nowhere near actually what he wants it to be, which I took to be really, really good. And I know there's been some concerns where, again, many picked up on the headlines, the fact that Spurs, in Ange's opinion, will never spend 100 million on a player. He preferred 2 50 million pound players. And I'm not sure why they got so much negativity, because ultimately we've seen with, I think, the last couple of windows that Spurs, ultimately their recruitment, they've actually got some really good players not being in the Champions League and also not having to spend 100 million on players. So was you surprised, Pat, that that got the negativity that it needed to? Because there's not many clubs that have spent over 100 million plus on players.
Yeah, I think sometimes, with all due respect, and I guess some may take this the wrong way, but I do think sometimes on these social media platforms, people just like to moan for the sake of moaning, because you'll see a comment like that and then people will just fly off the handle. Oh my God, and it's like, realistically, our biggest signings, Tanguy and Ndombele and a few others, haven't worked out. That's not to say that we shouldn't spend big again, but it also means that we need to be smart. And even if you look at the £100 million signings in the Premier League, most of them haven't worked out either. So it does, just because you spend big doesn't mean it's going to be a success. And I would rather we do our homework and spend 50 million here and 60 million there, and they're successful, brilliant players, than go big on a player and it doesn't work. So as long as we're spending correctly, then I don't have a problem. I do think Daniel Levy really needs to back Ange, and obviously over time we'll see if that happens. But just because Ange said we're not going to go big on one player doesn't mean we're not going to spend. Obviously, time is a teller. None of us know what's going to happen in the summer. We can all see that we're onto a good thing. If we keep on this trajectory, hopefully we finish in the top 4 and hopefully Ange is backed. But for people just to fly off the handle every time a statement or some sort of wording is released is crazy to me. And I just think, like, with everything going on, stop being so fucking negative over every, like, there are real issues. There's issues in terms of the old people's concessions and ticket prices going up and all of this and that. Those are the things we should be moaning about. If you moan about every single thing, your voice gets lost. Do you know what I mean? People won't take you seriously because you're moaning about things that, with all due respect, haven't happened, and you don't know if it's ever going to happen. So, yeah, like you, Ricky, I was a bit like, what's going on? But I guess it is what it is, and that people will always find something to moan about. Like even today, when I picked up my phone and after the game, people were still moaning at things, even though we won 4-0 and it was a convincing win.
Against a genuine rival for a Champions League spot.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Let's be honest, could you imagine, Pat, had we lost this game, what the reaction would be if Spurs go 8 points behind Villa with April's fixtures to come? I mean, again, really, really, again, you look at today and I don't know how anyone could be upset or agitated by the nature of how that's played out. I mean, Tal, will come to you. Spurs score straight after Radu Dragashin's entrance to the pitch. Sarr races down the left after Kulu puts him in. His cross is brilliant. Maddison pokes the ball into the net between the two defenders. That's now 39 consecutive matches in which Spurs have scored. And what a time for Spurs to score. As we mentioned, seconds after the loss of Van der Ven, there is James Maddison. And we'll come on to Maddison in a second, because what I want to say for me, Tal, is I think that goal is all about the movement of Pat Matasar actually off the ball. Because behind the opposition defence, like he's run for his goal against Brighton last month, I don't think there's any other Spurs midfielder that offers that actual ability to do that. And that is why he's so important to the team. And that is why, for me, I think it's criminally underrated if Pat Matasar is not up there for a PFA Young Player of the Year award, because that guy in a Tottenham shirt has been absolutely phenomenal this season. And when you consider what Conte done to him last season, I mean, I just love this guy more, right?
It's nuts, isn't it? You just think, what did he see that made him not want to start him? It's actually insane. I mean, for us this season, we've seen it again. It's that consistency. He has done absolute bits for us. He just doesn't stop running and finds and knows those balls to play. And today we saw the perfect example of that. That pass was as good as a delivery you'll ever see. It was spot on. He picked him out perfectly. And, Madders couldn't miss that. He literally couldn't miss that. And it was absolutely incredible to see. And I love seeing it, and the way they celebrated together was superb. And also, to be fair as well, Decky, did well to start that up. It was all in that play up front. And I think, again, we'd all been pretty critical of him up until that point in the game, just because he hadn't taken on those big moments and he hadn't done those things. But I think that was the thing I tweeted after that, is like, he's arrived. Because he did bits like that straight after that. He was really involved and set those movements up. But it was such a good ball, and it really did come from him. But yeah, I think for that goal, him and Pape were 11 out of 10. Great finish. And it couldn't have happened at a better time, because like we said, Mickey is, God bless Mickey, right? Like, we love Mickey. So to score straight after that, I think was such a good time-wise thing, because it just boosted everyone to be like, nah. Firstly, we're fine, but also we're on. Let's go. And it was great. But yeah, He's so composed and just...
On these points, Tal, you say, it's interesting. I think, many, again, I know with Ange, there's no fixed 11. Spurs shouldn't be having a best 11. It's about really who's playing well in that moment. But I do feel, if I can come around to you, Macca, Sarr is one of those players for me that I just feel he's so integral and important to have on the pitch because he's got that ability. We've got midfielders that can score. We'll come on to Maddison in a second. But Sarr's one of those players that quite literally can be anywhere and everywhere during a game. And when you consider at the moment that he's playing with this back problem, that is really restricting him. And Ange just said that, again, it's been a concern where he's worried about playing him. If this is Sarr with issues, Sarr without issues, how good is this guy going to be, Lee? And his ceiling at the moment, as a player, I think we've got a gem here, haven't we? Just one unbelievable young player we've got here that we should really be cherishing and nurturing. And he's just in, like I say, the very, very, young period of his career at the moment. He's only going to get better.
No, for sure. King Cole says the same thing, massive ceiling. Like, he's just going to get better and better as he gets older. Destiny as well. I've called him out earlier. I'm sure we'll do a section on him. Absolutely outstanding. Paul Russell says here, Barasi's been cooking. Destiny and Sarr, 15 million each. What is happening here? And again, that just backs up Big Ange's point, doesn't it? At the end of the day, you don't have to spend 100 million on a player when you can go and get, a Vicario, who is a cheaper option that just won London Goalkeeper of the Year, which I do think Raya plays for a London club. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe some of the Arsenal fans that are in. I think Sarr is absolutely outstanding. He's never going to get the plaudits that we all want him to get, and we all don't want him to get, if that makes sense. Let me explain. He's not going to get the plaudits because he plays for Tottenham Hotspur. That's the reality. And he's not going to get the plaudits that we don't want him to have, because as soon as he does, he'll be being sold by all the media outlets to Manchester United or Man City or, Real Madrid. So, we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't, innocent. Let's just enjoy him. He is an absolute superstar. He is the Sarr man. He's signed a new contract recently. He's with us for the next 7 years. He's locked down, absolutely locked down. And that is the reality. And he will go through peaks and troughs as well, because he's a young player like Brennan, like Destiny,
yeah,
they're all young. Even Pedro Porro, he's only 23. Decky's only 23. Decky's he plays like he's 32. He's actually 23. You know what I mean? It's madness. So he's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And that ball, like Tal just said it earlier. It was world class. It was absolutely, and he nearly fell over, didn't he? Let's have it right, team. He nearly fell over, didn't he? He was stumbling. I'm thinking, oh, don't fall over. And he kept his feet about him. Then he composed himself. Then he had a look up, and then he put that world class ball in that Maddison couldn't miss. It's just absolute the whole bit of play, like as Tal just said. Decky started that ball off, I think, to knocked it round a corner. What do they call that? A pre-assist? I don't know. They call it something.
Semi-assist, pre-assist.
Semi, Rick. What's going on, son? You know what I mean?
It was a 4-0 away from home, Macca.
It was a 4-0 at Villa, mate, at prime Barca. I don't know. I just think that the ceiling, as King Hoddle said and you guys said before, the ceiling is huge. He can be whatever he wants. He can do whatever he wants to be. And I know we put a lot of pressure on him by saying, comparing him to people and comparing him to greats of the past. But as soon as we've got a couple of Arsenal fans in the group, he is like a Patrick Vieira. He's got an engine on him. He goes backwards. He goes forwards. He's quite gangly in that way, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? He doesn't even look that strong. Sometimes I look at his, this isn't a criticism, by the way, just so hear me out. Sometimes I look at his shirt on him and I think, blimey, is there not a smaller shirt that you can get? He's got quite a lot of room in his arms and whatever. But he's very hard to get off the ball as well, right? So he's quite strong. He gets himself into positions. I remember against Palace when he pinged that ball from a deep right-hand side, didn't he? Do you remember he pinged that ball to Johnson, who headed it on and ended up going to score? The goal that he scored, I can't remember, it was against Brighton recently, where we put the ball in the back of the net. It rebounded off the post, and then he stuck it in the back of the net. And then this assist today as well. Again, I haven't got his numbers. Don't know, Pat, you got his numbers in front of you, but he's clocking up some numbers as well now.
Yeah, three goals and 3 assists he's got this season.
Cheers, my man.
Got, three goals, 3 assists. So yeah,
And so these are numbers that we wasn't getting from midfield areas in the past, or haven't been getting from areas. Because let's have it right. We were a team that were built around Son and Kane, and actually Son and Kane were getting the numbers. And if they weren't getting the numbers,
we had to rely on them. That's all we relied. If they weren't scoring, who was Macca?
Exactly. Now you've got a Werner scoring, you've got Johnson scoring and assisting, you've got Sarr scoring and assisting, you've got Kulusevski scoring and assisting. Again, he gets another assist today.
Maddison.
People say, he didn't have the best game. He gets another assist today, two other pre-assists. I bet he's got 7 goals and 6 assists or something. I ain't got the numbers in front of me. Pat, you got them?
He's got 6 goals and 3 assists. So the assist one, I was quite surprised.
Yeah, it's quite low.
It's a lot lower than I thought, but there's been a lot of times where he's created a lot of chances and unfortunately haven't been finished. But he's quietly got 6 goals, got 3 assists. He didn't have the best of games in some aspects, but again, he was pressing from the front, winning the ball back, and he was starting a lot of the offenses and attacks today. So he definitely, he played his part. But we know that, I rate Kulusevski highly, and sometimes I'm a bit harsh on him because I know how good he can be. And he wasn't at his best, but he was still more than good enough, as you saw. And,
I think it's frustrating though, since his injury. It's the lack of speed and stuff. I think before that he just felt so much quicker and more well-rounded. Now he still has those pockets of stuff for us and does. And like in that second half today, I think he felt like more of the old Decky that we've seen, where he was just part of everything, setting everything up, and he was so integral to the way we were playing. But I think just especially in the last couple of months, I think he just has not taken on any shots, and he's looked like he's not as confident as he used to be. And that is why we've kind of got that perception where it's like, but I still think he's phenomenal and we do need him. He is super important for the team. It's just,
I agree.
Ability to just shoot.
I agree. Is that ability to shot? 100% agree. I mean, Skunkwork said something about, he used the word, or the individual uses the word, Kulu is crap. He wasn't crap, Skunkwork. He wasn't crap because he had the pre-assist for Sarr and the pre-assist for Son to get through for the second goal. So it wasn't about being down to 10 men because he'd already had 2 hands in the goals when we had 11 versus 11. It's just, previously, and I think that's what he's going to get on that. He scored against Palace the other day, didn't he? Or Wolves? Didn't he score against Wolves? Just scored a Premier League goal against Wolves like 2 games ago.
Yeah. I think the frustration with Cooley very quickly is that the fact that he's at, you see his contribution today, and that it's the inconsistency of him, because we know that on his day he can be such a good footballer. And when we signed him, I think we saw an initial kind of 10, 15 games where we thought, what an absolute superstar we've signed. And I think really since that first breakout season, whether teams have worked him out or whether there's any more reason behind that, I think
since he was injured, he hasn't been as good.
Yeah. I think again,
time.
I think the only reason fans are frustrated, Tal, and come back on this, I think fans are frustrated because we know how potentially good he is. And it's the fact that we've got to try and unlock that potential we saw, Tal, in those opening 10, 15 games, right?
Yeah, exactly. It is just knowing you just want him to go on and make that run, or you want him to take the shot on. And I just think he hasn't done that. And you know what? He took that shot on today and he reached Rose Ed, God knows what. And I clapped my screen. I was like, yes, do it, because he hasn't done it for so long.
I did as well.
And I was like, yes, I don't care that it went up into God knows where, bloody other side of Birmingham. Cool.
Shoot.
He took that shot on and had an actual shot.
I was annoyed. I'm not going to lie.
No, I was happy.
I was with Son. I was annoyed. Son was in and he was...
Oh, no, obviously. Yeah. Obviously, if you put in the wider picture, it was frustrating, right? But on the other hand, you're like, at least he tried to shoot.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you.
It was just that bit of like, oh, you need him to do that, because I think he got that goal, like we said a few weeks ago, and we thought, oh, maybe he'll become it. But I feel like we hadn't seen it. But I think this second half really was a standout for me, or like the first time in a while I've been like, no, Decky was integral today.
Yeah, he was good in the second half. Like
in the middle. Does he need to go in the middle? Does it,
I think this is half the problem, Macca. This is still half the... This is still half the problem, Macca. Yeah. I think you've come here on there and said before, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you've said he could play potentially as a right wing back, a right midfielder, a left midfielder, a left. We still don't know, I think, Decky's best position. I think there was a period where we thought maybe he could, as you just said there, Macca, can he play through the middle as a bit of a cam? And I think we've still got to work that out. But Spurs have, as we know, triggered the option.
Nine, mate. He can play as a false nine. Honestly, he could. He could. You could put him as a 10. You could put him as a 9, like not even a false 9. The bloke's a box, man. He can hold that ball up down the middle. Like it's a stopgap. But is that part of the problem? Like you say, like is he becoming like a utility player? He's not, because he plays on the right every week. I tell you what will make a decision, because it's a really good debate. There's a lot of difference of opinion, which is fantastic on Decky. But if Decky starts the next game in that position, you'll know that that's what he needs, because I think he brings something that no other. Johnson on that right does not protect. He does not carry the ball. He's not strong enough in that. I'm not having a go at Johnson, by the way. What Johnson does, he does well. But what Decky does, he does almost like the uglier part of the game as well in that position.
Which does go amiss, which fans don't always see, Maka, which I think again is really important.
Yeah, it's like an out ball, isn't he? As well, he can be an out ball.
I think again we have to.
Perfect example that was down. I think it was the first goal. Perfect example of that. Down the side, it was like bang, 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 like down that side. And he was running, driving with that ball. Yeah, I mean, and he was quite deep from that. And there's not many players. Maybe Destiny on the other side that does that as from a left back point of view. There's not many players in the team that does that. Yep.
I do agree. Listen, bring on to James Maddison very quickly. He grew an influence of that game all on, of course, deserved his goal, raced into the box, a really good finish from Madders. Ange was asked after the game how important it was for Madders to get a goal, as he hasn't been quite creative as he has in terms of since that injury occurred. He said, look, he's missed a lot of football. He's only just come back. We've got a few like that who are just getting the rhythm back, but good for him. It was a really good goal for him because it was a moment about endeavour as his quality in those areas. And we've seen that these kind of things we talk about constantly are coming to fruition. We're going to get more reward for our good play, and our hard work comes if these players show that endeavour to get in the right areas and score those goals. Maddison is one that has to be more advanced. We know he has the quality to score from just about anywhere. It was a really, really good goal. He attacked that area. We know we need players to attack that area more often. It was a great ball from Pap too. I'm really pleased with our goals. It's stuff we work on, and it's great for these individuals that all contributed something towards that game. That also meant that Spurs have scored in all 27 Premier League matches under Ange Postecoglou. It's the best run from a manager's first game in an English top-flight season since Arthur in 1950-51 when they won the title. And then subsequently, as we've spoken about, Spurs scoring in patches. The second goal soon followed. 2-0, Spurs breaking up the pitch, Kulu intercepting the ball, and Son seeing up Johnson, who curled in the shot into the goal on the slide. And I know that joke about, everyone maybe thinks Johnson's just a super sub. I think he earned that spot today in that starting 11 because ultimately, look, it was a 3-minute double salvo from Spurs. But just on Johnson, if I can, I'll come to you, Tal. Look, it's 4 goals and 6 assists in 17 games. That 10 overall goal and assist contributions combined. And I think, again, Johnson's had his critics this season. What I liked after the game, what I liked is that, and many will hear it on the audio, that he's actually well aware of that criticism. And he said, look, I love scoring in front of the fans. I think the criticism is really driving him on. And again, someone similar to Pat Matassar, we don't know this kid's ceiling yet. And I think, again, it's really exciting where we find ourselves now that a player that's come in for big, big money is starting to really perform now. And a lot of those naysayers and critics are quietening down because they can see this player, Tal, is only just starting the Spurs shirt, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think he's definitely grown into it since he's been starting. I think, like you said as well, that criticism does drive him. I think the amount of criticism he has got, and I know that some of that has come from us and everyone else, like it's only natural when you're a fan watching it that you can be frustrated at points. But on a large, I think for, his age and where he's at in his career is a lot to take on and probably unfounded in most parts. I think he really is going to be kind of one of those superstars for us. And I feel like he already loves this club and is giving everything he can for that badge. And that is what we can ask for as fans. And he's getting those goals. Like we've said, he really has found that confidence and is taking on those shots, whether they work out or not. He has that confidence now to just take it on, try, get the goal. And he feels like he's finding those positions and getting into the right places, which we need, and it's coming off, and it's good. Like I've really loved seeing him do well. I think all of us do. Like we want that, we're all so excited for these players. Like I think we do forget that they are so young, and we have to be forgiving as well. Like it's never always just going to come off the first time. We're in the first few games, they've got to find their feet and stuff. He's scored really important goals for us as well, whether it's last minute winners or just really, spurred on something else. They're really important goals that he's getting. And it is just building up those confidence. So I'm really happy. And I just think, look, that the criticism comes from, I think, the right place. And it is that frustration that we see, like with other players, because we know that we can do better, or we want to see better things kind of as we go on. But I think largely he's really grown into the role, and I was really happy to see him starting on that team sheet today, because I know that was, I guess, like we said before, one of the ones where like, oh, not sure, but I saw it and got it and was like, yeah. And look, it paid off, because again today he was really, really good, and I think it was one of the best games he's had in a Spurs shirt as well. So onwards and upwards for Brennan, but I'm happy, and I think the way he's spoken as well is really nice. He just seems like a really down to earth, nice boy. Like we forget he's a boy, right? He's a boy, and I think he's seeing that love.
22.
Yeah. He's like that's a young kid. Like loads of them, but he's a kid, right? Yeah. And seeing that, I think we've all seen he's responding to that criticism, and he reads it. So actually, when he does stuff right and is doing it, we need to do the same back and give him that love and support and try and nurture him where we can. That's going to spur him on and make him feel like, actually, I'm doing this and I'm doing it well and I'm growing. And that's important for anyone in whatever career you've got. So big up, Brennan. Let's keep it going.
Just Rick, if I can, following on from chat, I think you're spot on. I think if you look at goals and assists or goal involvements last year for Nottingham Forest last season, he gets 11. This season in 38 appearances. This season in 24 appearances, he's got 10. So that is impressive. You can see there's progression there. The price tag on a 22-year-old is a big one. And I know some people will think 45 million is not big, but they probably live in a cardboard box and still think that 45 million is not a lot of money. Do you know what I mean? So I think
that's where a lot of the criticism came from, right? It wasn't some cheapo kid that you got from academy next door and you can train up. Like, you spend that money, you expect returns straight away. Irrespective of how old someone is. And I think it has just been that at the beginning, we saw all those things, but he's really just grown into that role, building those partnerships now with those guys. He's playing with the same people. Look, we've said this the whole time. We've got to build a proper squad that knows how to play with each other and understand positioning and where people are. And I think we're seeing that. We played such fluid football today, and that was all of them. It just, things flowed and it worked. And he's he's part of that, and it worked out. And I think we will see a continued improvement across the weeks, which is exciting because we all want him to do well and score goals.
I think the thing that he's improved on the most and I was chatting with my mate Mike, who I sit next to in the south, a couple of, I can't remember which game was, it's irrelevant, it's a few weeks ago, and we were saying that he needs to press more. Like there was no pressing going on. It felt like he's got this kind of, I don't know if you team, do you agree with this, or viewers and listeners? He's got this kind of very chilled approach. Like, it feels like he's not working hard, or he's not tracking back, or I don't know. It comes across like he's quite laid back in that way. I think that's just the way he is, and he wasn't pressing. And the other day against Palace, he pressed so well and won the ball back and put Anderson on his backside and all that stuff. That's the side of the game I think that he started to improve on. And then today, now that goes into confidence, where he's putting Matty Cash on his arse, or he's got him on toast, because he's got bigger burners than Timo Werner. Do you know what I mean? As the man expressions would say, and he has, right. He's got bigger burners than Timo. So with them two on the pitch at the same time, it should be absolutely lightning quick, and Son can keep up through the middle. So it's pretty phenomenal.
That's what I mean. It's going to gel. It is going to gel. Just quickly, again, I do think he's one of those confidence players, and getting those goals, especially at home in front of the fans, in front of that South Sound when he's scoring, that's special. And he loves that. And he's so, I think, into this project. So seeing it, taking it away and doing those same things, you're like, this is it. And who better to learn from Ange? I think he's great with the young players. So you just got to stick with him. I think if we can all kind of relay some of the praise onto him, so he really feels that boost from the fans, I think he'll only thrive.
Totally agree. Patty, go, I can just bring you in because, 4 Spurs players now have been directly involved in 10 plus 20 goals this season. Sonny, Richie, Maddison, Johnson. We're saying earlier about how important it is to spread those goals and assists throughout a team. when you've got that, Pat, you realise, I mean, similar to the Pochettino era, where we had the likes of Dele contributing, we had the likes of Kane, Son contributing, you know, players that were really taking Spurs to that ultimate next level of playing in the Champions League and dominating teams. Is it fair to say, Pat, if we can retain those kind of stats and build upon that into the spreading those goals and assists, that's only going to benefit us as a whole. And as you mentioned earlier, bringing in other players, Pat, that can add to the creativity, add to that depth in terms of goals and assists, because it's clearly being now seen with Tottenham. They're not a one-man team. They're not a two-man team anymore. You've got goals and assists sprinkled over the course of the pitch now, Patty.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, unsung heroes like Kulusevski, who can be frustrating, but is on 9 goals and assists. So, you know, he's got 6 goals, 3 assists. Pedro Porro's on 7 assists. So these are guys that are also contributing. I think Romero, off the top of my head, has got 3 goals. So everyone's chipping in with goals and assists. And when you have that spread throughout the team, it just obviously gives teams problems. They don't know who to pick up. Obviously, set pieces. I feel we could probably do better on that, and then get some of the centre backs involved in that. And yeah, just probably 1 or 2 more creative pieces in that middle. Maybe if we get another out and out winger, Kulusevski could play as an 8, because I think Kulu's so good and he's strong as an ox. He's really good. Like even today, he had a few moments where he was running, you know, with the ball, and they couldn't get him off the ball. But is he an out and out winger? Probably not. Not the way that Ange plays, you know, where you want pace and directness and people running in behind and taking a man on. And Kulu probably hasn't got the same skill set as a Werner or a Brennan Johnson, or ideally someone better than those guys to add more depth and quality. So, yeah, but like you said, the goals are being spread, the assists are being spread. Sonny's looking back to his best, and Sonny could have even had a few more assists today if people would have took their chances. So it's looking good, and we need to finish strong now. You know, we've had a few bumps in the road and we've had a few mishaps, but if we can keep on a strong run, go into the 4 tough games with you know, with goals and clean sheets coming through, I feel that will leave us in good stead. So yeah, back to what you said, definitely. I mean, Son's on 14 goals and 8 assists. So that's 22 goal contributions in 24 games. That's insane numbers.
Incredible, isn't it? Incredible.
So, you know, exactly. Maddison.
Ranking now as well.
Asia Cup as well. We went to the Asia Cup. You look at and what's everyone spouting on the TV before? Ollie Watkins this, Ollie Watkins that, what Ollie Watkins. And he's like, what? He's like a goal behind him and like, you know, a couple of assists. But he's had a few months off at the Asia Cup. I mean,
that's why I said it was quite funny, because going into the game, all they were doing is talking about Aston Villa, and I was like, you know what, cool, that lays into our hands. And boom, you know, we blew them out the park.
Like it that way.
And yeah, I do like it like that. And Lee said it rightly as well. Like if they start bigging up Pat Mansar and giving him the praise that he deserves and should get, maybe that does go against us. So I'm happy for us to go under the radar and keep doing our thing. But obviously, as we win more games, people will start to talk about us. You know how it goes. Yeah. So yeah, it's a funny thing, but let's just keep doing what we're doing. At the end of the day, it is in our hands. It's a cliche and it's a bit of a, you know, everyone says it, but as long as we win more games than we lose, and obviously we've taken, today was a big 6-pointer. You know, I said to you earlier, Vicky, that a draw didn't do us any favors, because it would have kept the gap at 5, and a win for them would have been catastrophic, because we would have been 8 points behind them. So we needed to win at all costs, and to win like that was insane, and it lays down a real big marker, and hopefully that will do the world of good for us, and also rock Villa to their core and leave them very fragile. We need them to drop more points as we obviously pick up more points.
And I think you've said this, Pat, as well, Pat. They've got quite a difficult run coming up. I know we've discussed Spurs in April. Villa have got a very difficult run to come up. Villa at that point in the game of Spurs going 2 up. Villa made a triple change. They brought on Zaniolo, who one name that is very known amongst the Spurs fan base. How long we linked with Zaniolo. Diaby, who came.
How many transfer window shows did we do?
Man.
Or did you do? This show where we're talking about bloody Zaniolo.
Zaniolo, I know. Never stop Zaniolo train. Diaby came on, much to the frustration of Villa fans are not liking him at the moment. And Moreno as well. There's a harsh booking for Dragusin, I thought. But while Villa continued to escape yellow cards on every occasion, Dragusin then took one right in the crown jewels from Matty Cash. Although Dragusin didn't want to block it, the entire Villa crowd winced in unison as they saw the replay.
Let's be fair. Every single fella on the planet who was watching that game all went down this. Oh, like straight away with like that. We all
Talking of
feel
harsh
bad.
yellow cards, how did Sarr get a yellow card for that foul in the first
I
half?
did he
still
get a
no
yellow
idea.
card?
No
Oh,
idea.
It's
That was
stupid.
crazy.
No,
Honestly.
mental. Guys, we're coming to that incident in the game where, again, I still won't do it justice. But we saw John McGinn, as Mac actually mentioned earlier, bill the Villa game as the most important for them in years. And that may perhaps to some degree explain why he lost his head when it was all going wrong for his side. I mean, I thought, look, the still here shows McGinn going in, but it was sent off and rightly so, because when you play that in real time, he took a late swipe of a kick at Destiny as he ran. And the Villa man then waited around for the VAR check, which, you know, we saw ref Chris Kavanagh just attempt to get off because there was no chance that was going to get overturned. I mean, again, I've seen many different takes on it, and we'll come to, I think, you, Tal, to start with. I've seen some say that in the moment, you know, it was a horrible tackle, a potential leg breaker, no intent to win the ball. And when Ollie Watkins come out and say he thinks the sending off was really, really harsh. He said, obviously, it looks a bit reckless, but it's in front of their bench and a big reaction from their side. It's obviously a tough one to take. I mean, Tal, is there anything in your mind that can tell you that was not a sending off?
Absolutely not. Like, is Ollie Watkins all right for making that comment? Because I just don't actually understand where that's come from. Like, I feel like usually he actually speaks quite well. What was he on about? Like, fair enough, like, respect your captain, whatever you want, but absolutely not. John McGinn knew what he was doing. He was so late and he took him out. Simple. The second it happened, anyone I was watching it with, red card all day long. And it was. And if that wasn't a red, you're nuts. And I feel like no matter who you support, that's a red card. You can't argue some stuff like that. It was nasty. And look, a lot of tackles, when you slow them down in slow-mo, do look worse. We all know that. But in real time, you could see it was
horrendous. Yeah,
dodgy. Like, that could have been a leg breaker. There was
Yes.
no attempt at getting the ball whatsoever. So, no,
Yeah.
I think it was ridiculous. And he was a victim of the Tottenham Chelsea curse. You know, you just lose your head sometimes. The game gets too big for you.
Oh,
He
man.
made those statements.
Great point, Tal. It's a great
And
point.
he just got frustrated and he took it out on little old Destiny, who we love. And can we just appreciate that the crowd singing Super John McGinn after that challenge, for him to get a red card with that on in the background, was like top tier TV, because I just really enjoyed that. And
Yeah.
I equally enjoyed the boys proper defending Udogie and going.
Can I just say, you know, what I like, Tal, is that Brennan was actually in there really at the start of it. It's not the first time Brennan's actually been there. I think he's done the same thing with Malpay as well. Brennan's got a bit of a spite in him where he will be there, of course, for his teammate. And again, I think we saw that, of course, when obviously the Richarlison incident at Forest happened, where he kicked him up in the air when he was doing the kick-ups, if you remember. So Brennan's got a bit of a spite of him there, you know, go in there and defend his teammate. But I think you're totally spot on there, Tal. And what I loved is actually, in the moment of the incident, you just saw Destiny get back up and he thought, should I go for this? And then, again, it was like the Ange maturity kicked in where he thought, you know what, again, if I react here, similar to what we saw against Chelsea when Spurs lost their head, what would the repercussions be? And I think, again, you know, Ange after the game said, look, I don't think it was a key moment. We were in control. Obviously, it made it easier, but it was just a byproduct of the pressure we were putting on them. And I don't think it was a malicious one from John. And it's interesting because, again, Mac, we talk about pressure on games. And again, I just wonder, we said it earlier on, I think Pat might have said it, or you might have said it, Mac, you know, the actual severity of how big this was for Villa's season, the chance of going 8 points clear of Tottenham. They've got a tough running, as we've said, to come. It just all came to a head, as Tal said there, and he quite simply lost his head, Lee. Surely, in your mind, there's nothing to suggest it could be anything other than a red card, right?
Oh, 100% red card. Like, there's not even a doubt about it. And he knew it. Everyone watching his reaction, he knew it. Because when it kicked off on a touchline and getting a bit of handbags or whatever, he backed away on the defensive. You could see his body language was like, oof, I've done in there. And I think I'm in trouble. You could tell if he didn't think that, he would have gone back at the oh, what are you doing? What he didn't. He was just backing off. He knew what was coming because it was a wrong one. And I have to say as well, I really like John McGinn. I think I watched the game with my father-in-law, and we were chatting, and he said about John McGinn. So I really like him. I think he's underrated. I think he's a very, very good player, really good midfielder. And then, lucky for us, he goes and gets sent off. Look, I do think the game was done. I don't think it was done and dusted before he got sent off. But as soon as we were 2-0 up, as soon as he went, we were just like, let's breathe. And there's always aspects of a game in, if they get one back. I actually said to Martin, I said, "Oh, this is 2-0 can be quite precarious sometimes, can't it? Do you
As
stick
a Spurs
to your
fan, yeah.
well, I think it's just
In general, you're right. In general football terms, yeah.
Definitely a Spurs fan, but this league is absolutely bonkers. It is relentless. Like anyone can do anything. I think Pat said it earlier, didn't you, Pat, about this league just being brutal. So they go and get a set piece and just goes 1-2, and all of a sudden you're thinking, hang on a minute, you're
and then the crowd turns, we get edgy,
the crowd
we get
turns, can we do it? People that are leaving Villa Park at, at 65 minutes, they're all trying to run back in the stadium.
Yeah,
we saw you, man. We saw you leaving early, putting you out there, trying Barca on their toes. But no, look, I mean, at the end of the day, it's look, Spurs for me are, we're in a transitional season project, all the cliches that anyone wants to moan about or like about or whatever it is, that they are facts. Like it's not bullshit. Excuse my language. We are past 10 o'clock. Sorry, listeners, going in the morning. The reality is it's not BS. Ange has been here for like 8 months. Like it's just ridiculous. We're 5 points better off in the league than we was this time last season. 5 points better off. We've scored 10 more goals in the league than we did last season. We've conceded 2 more. So for those of us, and I've said it as well, that think our defence are a bit shaky, we've had a shocker, whatever. We've only conceded 2 more goals than we did last season at this point, on the basis that we had this unbelievable defensive situation going on under Conte, Stellini, Ryan Mason. Who else managed us last season? Was Jack Santini back last season? I can't remember. There's so many managers.
Everyone made an appearance last season.
David Pete for another stint. Look, I think the fact of the matter is that we've lost 3 less games from this point, the same from last season as well. The progression is there to see on the pitch, off the pitch, from an Ange perspective, the culture change, the players that we've got in. We just talked about the young lads. Destiny Udogie, 21 years old. Pat Matassar, 21 years old. Johnson, 22 years old. Decky's only 23, even though we mentioned that earlier. We're looking for. I mean, our goalkeeper's only 27, and he's our goalkeeper. I mean, it's about 22. I mean, what is happening here? So it's phenomenal where we are going. We hope, and that is what I said it from day one of the Love Sport show, didn't I, Rick? It's the hope that keeps you, it's the hope that kills you. But the reality is, you can't be disappointed today with an absolute thrashing of Aston Villa at home at their place, with a 4-0 win.
Totally agree. Obviously, after that point of Villa, obviously the incident of John McGinn going off, Spurs sub Sarr, who had been brilliant up to that point, replaced by Bentancur, who I think the main highlight, of course, of Bentancur coming in was the fact that he floored Matty Cash. That had been coming for a long, long time. I think, again, Rodrigo made nothing of it, but we all knew as Spurs fans, and certainly away fans knew what he was doing. In terms of just say some of the key players before we bring on to Son and look to close, brave keeping from Vicario at one point to deny Zaniolo looked to have hurt himself. I mean, Vicario is a proper throwback, isn't he, in terms of keepers where he does go all in with his bravery, always puts his body on the line. We mentioned about important players in the team today. Pedro Porro made a really important block in that first half, as we mentioned, then chased back superbly to cut out a Watkins pass. A very impressive return to the team. Christian Romero, beaten early on, of course, by that ball by Watkins, was bowed out. But I think, again, we've seen Romero have real strong games in a presence of an important moment, kept his maturity, kept his head, and again, full credit to him. Destiny Udogie, we've mentioned again the importance. And I've got to say, I think when we have that back four and you add Dragishin into that, Spurs are a real phenomenon there in terms of defence. And there's no doubt about it. We talk about the fact of, we've conceded more goals than we wanted, but I think there's no doubt the more we play that back four, back five together, I had Dragishin in there because he'll get minutes next season wherever Spurs are in terms of European competition. We've got a really, really strong defence there that we can rely on. They're all capable. And again, you look at the bench options, and I think, again, Pat, you said this earlier, this is where Ange, I think, in this game really, really earned his right because he saw the opportunity to bring on Werner and Højbjerg replacing the goal scorers, Maddison and Johnson. And there was almost a third there as Højbjerg sent Son away down the right. His cross was stopped, but it fell for Kulusevski for his shot to be deflected wide. Then Spurs did go 3-0 up. Kulusevski having a hand in that third goal. This time he directly picked out Son to rocket home a shot. And again, we saw 10 minutes of added time, but it was two completely different halves from the Swede. But just on Sonny now, 5th joint top goal scorer for Tottenham with 159 goals. Now up to over, as Pat said there, the 20-plus goals and assists for the season. That class is permanent. He's now only 3 players that have provided 60-plus Premier League assists for Tottenham, 67 in Darren Anderson, 62 in Christian Eriksen, and then there's Heung-min Son there on the 60. And since the start of 2022, all 6 instances of a Spurs player being directly involved in 3-plus goals in a Premier League game have been by Heung-min Son. A goal, 2 assists today. You know, I've got to say, Pat, for what we've said about Son in terms of going quiet in games, the moment he comes alive, Pat, I think echo why he's a true captain. He can there, in a moment, change a game, be effective, and ultimately kill a game off.
Yeah, he's a world-class player and he's a world-class leader. And obviously these are 2 different things, but he does it so effortlessly. And he frustrated me in certain instances in the game because he wasn't his usual self. He was misplacing passes, or when he was through on goal, his touch was a bit off. But all in all, he had a fantastic game. As you said, 2 assists, a goal. He was everywhere. He was brilliant. And I think he speaks for himself. You know, he lets the football do the talking. And it's just amazing to see him. And it seems like he's getting better and better. He's like a fine wine. He's getting better with age. And someone put up on the comments that he's created some of the most chances in the Premier League. And I said it earlier, the amount of chances he's made and people haven't finished them off. But to be on 8 assists and have 14 goals at this stage, and he's essentially missed a month of football, it's insane. And he's good in these big games. So we've got City, we've got Arsenal. These are the games where Son comes alive. So hopefully, touch wood, everyone stays fit. I really can see him having a real strong ending to the season, because he looks like he's always involved in the game now. And the good thing about Son as well is that he'll get onto players if they're not doing the right thing. Like when Kulusevski should have played him in, you saw him get onto them, but he'll also at the same time praise and show love to players and make sure he puts an arm around them. And I think he's a brilliant custodian for Tottenham. In terms of in the Premier League and globally, in my opinion, the guy can do no wrong. I think he's an amazing player, and there were question marks when Kane left who should get the captain and the armband, and I think everyone now has seen that Ange has made the right call, and Son is definitely the captain. So
totally agree. And I've got
just on that, Sam Costa on the screen. I think it's a brilliant point. Sorry, Rick. Sam says it's a shame because you absolutely have to put Sonny up front. But there are certain moments, even in this game, where we whip a ball in and you feel Richie would get on the end of it. And you do feel that. And I think that's the balance. And but that's why Ange, to be fair to Ange, has said from day one, everybody is in his play, in the team can have a shot at the start at 11. And it is a squad game. It is a team game. It's not just 11 people. And I'd much rather have that headache of do we play Richie or up top and Son wide left and Werner coming in or Johnson coming in than having no choice at all and just worrying if Kane's going to get injured. Do you see what I mean? It's like so. But I think there's a really good point there. Is that there's some instances. I mean, let's be fair. Sonny's not going to score 5 or 6 a season with his head, is he? Whereas actually a Kane or a proper, if you like, inverted commas, number 9 would. So and Richie's very good with his head, but Son can go left, he can go right, he can hit them top bins. And I said this on the last show, the preview show before we talked. When I was watching that 100 goals club or whatever, the Premier League goals for Sonny, he's an absolute world-class finisher, probably the best in the league. You could argue you've got the Haalands and the Watkins or whatever, the Salahs that are scoring, but this bloke, left or right, you don't know where he's going to go, and that's where I agree with Pat today. That little bit of frustration in him is you think, hang on, mate, just drop. There was an opportunity where he could have let the ball run across him today, coming from the right, could have let it, and he could have just pinged it with his left. He went with his right in the end. But who am I to criticise Heung-min Son? The bloke is absolutely brilliant, and I love him. He's perfect for our football club.
I think, again, we have to make that point. There's a number of games where Son is surrounded by at least 3 players for an entire half. So when you've got 3 or 2 players dedicated to being on Son, that's, again, why it's very hard for a player to have a direct influence in every moment of that game, where, again, it's the world-class nature of a player that, in a blink of an eye, they can create a goal, they can score a goal, and that is what Sonny brings to the team. Just very quickly on Timo Werner, he made it 4-0. Sonny burst into the box, teeing up the Germany, placed it superbly into the far corner. It was a lovely finish, which means for Timo Werner now, it's 2 goals in 2 games for Spurs, and he plays that one ever so well. Craig at ACST says, I think you have to sign Timo Werner permanently during the summer. I feel his confidence is growing under Ange, and even when it comes to the bench, I think he's going to be a really, really dangerous aspect for Tottenham. Tal, I can come to you. There's been lots of speculation by the fact Spurs will most likely activate that option to buy Timo Werner, which we believe to be in the region of 15 million euros. Have you seen enough for you at the moment that he warrants that activation, or do you still need to be proven in these final 10, 11, 12 games left of the season?
I mean, I think he needs to be consistent for sure. But I think what we've seen of him so far is good. I mean, in football terms, 15 million is not a ton of money. I mean, it's still a crazy amount of money, and you expect a player that can come in and do a job and definitely contribute to goals and assists for that. But he has done that. And it's not like I think he's played 90 minutes in every game where he's had to do that. So for me, at the moment, 15 mil feels like the right decision, and one that would be silly not to take up, given that he is scoring and not. However, I really back our recruitment at the moment. I think we have done a phenomenal job over the last few windows, and I really back the fact that if there is somebody out there that is better value for money that can bring exactly what Ange wants to this team, then we'd go for that. And if not, there's a reason, we only bought or have got Timo for a short amount of time. And I think time will tell whether it is a stopgap kind of thing, because we need that kind of player now, and that's the best we could get. And there's someone that can do a better job for him in the long run, or whether he is that solution. And either way, I think I'm kind of happy, and I do back their decision. I think all we can want at the moment is to see that he's coming into the team, putting in a performance and really aiding our side, which he has. And let's be honest, as we've always said, and I think someone, again, Sam has just said in the chat, it's a great dilemma to have. So I'd much rather us have that dilemma than not, as I think we all would. So look, if he's scoring and assisting, we'll take him.
Absolutely. I mean, we've been making the joke. Can't say it's over 6,500 watching the show.
Insane. Rick,
everyone keeps saying we've got 1,500 viewers per goal, so we can win 8-0. We'll have 12 by the end of the season. Let's just keep it going.
I'll get in contact.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is insane.
Unbelievable numbers.
Guys, look, go on the bingo card now. Get on the bingo card. Conscious of time. I want to close on this final part.
Who had 20 past 10? Who had 20 past 10? Hour and 47 for the listeners tomorrow.
You know what?
Here he is. The bingo
hour
now.
and 47 minutes. Look, Ange was asked after the game in terms of the importance of the nature of the fact that the 4 goals came from all different players. And I think we mentioned this point that we've said it throughout the show. We've been so reliant in the past of having one player contributing to goals, or 2 players in terms of Kane and Son. The great thing we've mentioned is the fact that we've now got 10 plus goals and assists across a number of different players. And what's important for him is that I think we score 4 goals from 4 key players who need to be scoring for us consistently. I keep saying that's the area of the park that we want to have in terms of that bang for our buck, considering how hard we work in the final third. Even though I thought we had more opportunities to score, I was really pleased with the execution of all of our goals. So to get 4 away from home and the players who scored them, that was more important. And the execution really pleased me. He was then probed on the fact that it's not a 2-point gap anymore. It's a big swing from a potential 8-point gap. He said, look, before the game, I still think there's a significant part of the season to go. There's still 11 games for us to play. There's so many more changes ahead of us. And every game with a different meaning between now and the end of the season. Not just for us, but for every team. There's a fight up the top. There's a fight down the bottom. There's a fight in the middle somewhere. So we're all fighting for something. Had we lost, I don't think that would have discounted us. Wherever people want to put us, they can. I've been consistent that for me, our growth is the most important thing. And I thought it was a positive step for us overall. And Ange was adamant for him, we're not playing for 4th. And I think he's even said that to the point that when Spurs could mathematically still win the title, he was again veering on that point that Spurs are not setting for any type of position. It's a fact of going into every game and play. So I want to ask you guys to close it on this final question. Going into these final 11 games, where do we feel Spurs are going to finish? I feel on the back of that, for me, I feel we've got the capability of finishing 4th. And I'm not sure if I would have done, based on the nature of how we go into that game and play the way we do. Macca kind of say for our listeners and audio is still railing out, could we? I will get Macca to come and close it. Before I do, we'll go to you, Tal. Tal, kind of say it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Really appreciate you making this one work at short notice. Bless you. It has been hard getting Tal on for the post-match games because of the nature of our fixtures this season. But Tal, tell me, in your opinion, where you feel Spurs will finish the season.
Oh, I am optimistic that we can get top 4. But I'm equally on board with Ange and that this project is bigger than this season. And the goal of this season was to play good football, to build a team that plays fluid, exciting, technically good football, and also get people to re-fall in love with their football team. And I think he has already accomplished that. And with any person right now that answers and says they wouldn't love top 4 is lying. Of course, that is the goal. And to bring Champions League football back to the lane is, what we all want as fans, as players, as everyone. That's the goal. But I can't remember where I read it, but I read him the other day to say, that's not really the goal for him because we're in it to win the Champions League, not to participate. So actually, where we're at, are we going to win the Champions League? Probably not. But you've got to be in it to win it, sure, right? And of course we could, and I want to be in it. But
yeah.
I think, there is that bigger picture, and I am excited for what we're going to do next season versus where we finished this season. But would I love to pay an extra £80 to sit in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for every Champions League game? Absolutely. So, yes, I back us, I think. If we can keep up this consistency, keep our players fit and really bring in that run, I think we can do it. We have to back ourselves, and I'd love for us to kind of be or get rewarded for our hard work this season and really kind of have a great springboard for next season. Because, it's been a funny old year without Europe and stuff, but I'm excited. So I will say, yes, I think we can do it, but I'm not super, super confident. I think we can do it. I'm not overselling. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Tal, thank you so much. Always a pleasure, Tal. Love having you on. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Patty, my man, to come over to you. Look, Pat, I don't keep a blue book, as you know, but I do keep some form of a record that I think, Pat, this is the time last year where you became a formally actual member of the Last Word on Spurs panellists. And I think given the fact of what this man's been through over the course of the year, you could say Pat's been owed that victory on here and the nature of it. So, Pat, a nice, easy one, mate, to close for you. Pat, where do you see Spurs finishing given that performance, the nature of what it does in terms of the season, and the fact Spurs are really now on Villa's coattails going into that final 11 games of the season?
I want to say 4th. I do feel that we will finish 4th. I don't want to be too big-headed, and I do want to be cautious and just obviously treat the opponent, as in Villa, and the other people that we've got to face with respect, because as long as we play the game that we play today, don't lose our heads, don't do anything stupid, and I don't see why we can't finish 4th. But all it takes is one bonehead or one knuckleheaded moment, like what John McGinn did today, and you're in big trouble. So, like McGinn, just to put into context, misses West Ham away, Wolves at home, and the big one, Man City away. So all it takes is one crazy moment like that, and you've essentially missed half of that game and 3 big games coming up. Business end of the season, all these games mean something. But when I look at the fixtures, as in Villa and Spurs, I'll kind of leave Man United out because with all due respect, I don't think they're on the level of a Villa or a Tottenham right now. But, Villa has still got to play West Ham, Wolves, Man City, Arsenal, Brighton and Liverpool. We've obviously got to play West Ham, Newcastle, Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool. So our fixtures with Villas are very similar. The good thing is, obviously, we've done Villa away and we picked up 4 points. So, that's really hurt them and given us a bit of a boost. And just off the swing of that, our goal difference is now plus 20 and theirs is plus 18. So we've swung the goal difference nicely and obviously picked up points on them. But yeah, as long as we play with the consistency, it's weird because our home form has been a bit shaky, but our away form has been a lot better. But yeah, as long as we do what we're doing, I don't see why we can't finish 4th. it's not, there are. I mean, we've got to play Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, 3 teams that are fighting for the title, and they're going to
Chelsea. I must throw Chelsea in there as a relevant day off. Chelsea away. You've got to
no.
throw
It's
that
always going to be a tough one. Chelsea away, going to Stamford Bridge, their fans and even the players are not going to let us just waltz in there and essentially rock up and leave with all 3 points. They're going to give us a tough game, and those are the games. I think Lee said it and Talia said it. Those are the games where we're going to have to show maturity, because these guys will do anything and everything to get under our skin, put us off our game. Essentially not make it about football, make it about the dark arts. So we just need to be, just be sensible. But I think 4th is there for the taking, as long as we don't do anything crazy, as long as Ange sticks to what he's been doing and, again, doesn't do anything silly, and as long as we can keep fit, I don't see why not. But it's not... Sometimes, after a result like today, you can get carried away. I don't want to go crazy, but also at the same time enjoy it. 4-0 away from home against a good team is something to get excited about. So, it's a bit of an on the fence answer. I think 4th is there, but we still need to be a bit cautious and a bit careful.
Patty, my man, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. One man who we know is on the train. One man who will probably let you go a bit crazy is Lee McQueen. Mac, I'm going to close it with you. I don't want to say could we, because
I'm driving this damn train. I've been driving this train for years, man, and it's still happening. It's still going on, son.
Tell me, Maka, in your mind now, with a win against Villa, you've done the stats in terms of where you feel Spurs will finish, doing your predict the tables. I mean, given the nature of that win today, where can Spurs finish this season?
Big win, wasn't it? I mean, we've all said it's a massive win to go there to, Villa have been brilliant at home as well. So to go there and literally take them apart, they had nothing. Three attempts they had, 1 on target, 3 attempts in total the whole game. That was very, very quality, very assured. So I think what that's going to do for us, maybe and for them as well, but let's just focus on us. What that's going to do for us is giving us huge confidence going into the games that we've got. Is it Fulham away? We've only lost 2 away games in the Premier League this season, and that was to Wolves and to Brighton. So we go full of confidence to Fulham next week. Hopefully Van der Ven's not a serious injury, but the reality is Maddison playing well, Johnson playing well, Son playing well, Richie to come back in as well. Competition for places all over the place. I think realistically, I think we finished 4th. I did predict. Before ball was kicked, I predicted 5th. When we started playing that Ange ball, and I was like, we was all blown away. I was like, mate, we can finish 3rd. And you've got to be honest and say that City, Liverpool and Arsenal are better and stronger than us, like for sure. I'm not having the Villa debate again, but I do think that we are better and stronger than Villa, and hopefully that today proved that to a certain degree. But I know it's a one-off game, but over a season. So I do think that we are, if you look at our statistics, shots, our passing, our, shots on target, touches in the box, we are a 4th/5th team. Like we are, like that's the statistics show that. I think we finished 4th, and I think it would be an amazing opportunity. There's only one thing I'll come back to. Talia said about if you don't want to be in Champions League, you're kind of lying. I do want to be in Champions League, and I do want to be in Champions League because it's the new format as well. I think that's quite important when it's new inaugural new format of the tournament. I think it's important that you're in that. But I also think, go back to the Conte, who I referenced earlier in the show tonight, under Conte, when we zipped past Arsenal and we got top 4, did that in a kind of way help their progression? Because they didn't. They finished 5th. They had the Europa League. They could bed in players. Does the Champions League, does it come too early for us if we get the Champions League? Because I don't think there's any player...
His comment, right? Like, as in, like, we don't just want to be there to participate and stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, if we want to be in it to win it, and if we're not there yet, that's fine, because we're aiming to get there. So that's why I feel like if it happens, I do feel like we've got a strong enough, or we're getting a squad that is more able to compete in these competitions, where previously we've never had a B team. We've never had anyone outside of our 11 that can even put in a 20-minute stint, really. And I think that's changing, which will help us. But I do think it is too early. I just think as a fan and as a attraction point of view, to be, one of the best teams in Europe, you need to have Champions League football. And that was like my...
I completely agree. I completely agree with you, Tal. I completely agree with you. But so I think what will be, and I think that's what I love about Ange. It's not he's not playing us down, like he's not talking us down. He's actually doing the opposite. He's talking us up. Whereas previous managers, Conte, we're not ready. We can't do this. We won't be doing this. I need like £100 million players, whatever. You know, he was just battering us down and we felt down. Whereas actually with Ange, he's saying, look, what will be, will be. I haven't got a ceiling. I'm not aiming for that. I'm aiming for higher than that, but we will be where we are. I think as fans, and you're right, Tal, in my opinion, yes, we want the glory. We want the glamour of the Champions League. But we also know that we're not going to go out and spend, and he's already said it, like these big money numbers. And actually, have we got a squad good enough to go into Champions League at the moment? Look, I suppose only time will tell, but many of us thought that with Poch, let's be fair, let's have it right. We didn't sign anyone for 518 days or whatever it was, and we got to a Champions League final. You know, and all that upheaval of the stadium and stuff. So who knows? Just enjoy it. I mean, if we can go and play football like that every single week, we can go into the City game, the Arsenal game, the Newcastle away, the Liverpool away, and go and play like that and get something out of them games. Be amazing. And you know, I do think Man City and Arsenal coming to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is a tough fixture for them. They will not want to be playing us there the running that they either. They won't, because they're in amongst the Champions League as well. And I think we probably haven't said this. Maybe we did, and forgive me if we missed it. But Villa did go to Ajax in a big game for them in Europe, and you know, maybe that took something out of them. Maybe they're thinking about that as well. They want to get through that cup competition. Who knows? But we've done the business today, and long may that continue. And I think we'll finish fourth.
Macca, guys, thank you so much. Got to say a massive thank you to our watching audience. Over 7,000 of you that have watched this show live across all of our platforms. Again, can't thank you enough for all your support for Last Word on Spurs. Let's hope the support like that continues for the rest of the season. You guys have always been amazing to us over the last 7-8 years. Again, thank you, Tal. Thank you so much, Chatty Patty. Thank you, my man. Lee McQueen, thank you again. Thanks so much to the watching, listening audience out there on Last Word on Spurs. Guys, well, there you go. Spurs have really set themselves up for what is the business end of the season. A big win against Aston Villa. A big win in the context of the season from myself, from Lee, from Patty, from Tal. We've been the Last Word on Spurs. As always, keep safe, keep well.